I'm Bruce Buffer. It's time for the Anthony Gargano Show!
Hello and good morning, everyone. Happy 2025. That one's going to take a little while to get used to, although I did nail it on my first, I either had a form or something to fill out the other day, and I nailed the date right. Usually I mess that one up for a couple weeks. So I'm 1 for 1 so far in 2025, right in the proper year. Good job, me. But welcome in. Happy Thursday to everybody out there. I am obviously not Anthony Gargano. I'm Jamie Lynch, filling in for the Cuz today and tomorrow as we get this new year kicked off right. And of course, starting the show, we are presented by our friends over at TrueMark Financial Credit Union. Find out why it's just great to have a credit union on your side. The Greenlight app that they're doing for kids is awesome and free for customers, so check that out. We got a lot to get into today. Obviously, we have some guests joining us. I'm really excited to catch up with Brian Baldinger at 10:30 to talk a little Eagles and a little NFL. My man Devon Givens is going to join us at 10 o'clock to recap the Sixers' collapse last night and their new maybe faith in the rest of the season. And of course, Brad Feinberg is going to join us for his best bets segment around 9:45. Talk about the bowl game that got postponed until today, the NFL final week going forward, and all that good stuff. But we're going to start the show off today with the news of the day, and that is your Philadelphia Eagles deciding to rest players in Week 18 here coming up this weekend versus the New York Giants. Typically, not much of a discussion point when you're locked in a 2 seed, but this year was a little bit different because Saquon Barkley, he's good. He's quite good. He's kind of perfect, and both on the field and off the field, but he had a chance to go for an NFL record. And no, I do not care that there was an extra game involved. It is something pretty cool. Now, let me say this to start, and then we'll get our man Andrew's opinion, and Tyler Zulli is going to join us in a little bit. We'll get his opinion as well. I'm a little disappointed if we're just bearing our souls here, because I think it's the smart decision to rest everyone. I don't think that necessarily makes it the right decision. A couple things have kind of gotten out of control narrative-wise. And one is that if he plays, the Eagles hurt their chances to win the Super Bowl. I don't necessarily find that to be true, unless, of course, he was to go out and get injured. So, you know, there's a very realistic situation where Saquon Barkley can go out there, get the record on Sunday, and the Eagles still win the Super Bowl. It's not like one or the other. There is gray area to this. So for that reason, I just hate all that matters is the Super Bowl. Okay, but playing maybe a half of football doesn't really necessarily reduce your chances of winning the Super Bowl that much. Of course, if he's injured, it does. But I'm not of the mindset that just because somebody plays, there's a 60% chance they're going to get injured. Now, the second part of this is, do you want Saquon Barkley playing behind the second unit offensive line? And I think that's what this really boiled down to, was the team decision. And, the elders on the council of the Eagles are Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata and Landon Dickerson. And those guys have a lot of sway because of how dominant. And to say Landon Dickerson's an elder is kind of outrageous. But, when you're an all-pro like 2 of your first 3 years, I think you have a lot of respect. But Lane Johnson, is that guy. And I would imagine the offensive line wanted a break. They haven't had a bye since week 5. It's been a long time. Getting guys some rest, like a Jalen Carter or a Zach Bond or a Lane Johnson is invaluable going forward. So I think this came down to it being a team decision over an individual record chase. And for that, I'm not going to argue. I think it's fine. But I'm also a big believer in Jeff Stoutland, and I think Tyler Steen and some of the backup offensive linemen are pretty solid. So would I be okay with Saquon Barkley going out there behind a second string offensive line unit? Yeah, I probably would, to be honest, in this situation. It doesn't make it the smartest decision in the world, but I do think this is rarefied air for a player. Saquon Barkley is a football historian nerd. He grew up knowing, idolizing, loving the game. He's probably heard about Eric Dickerson since he was a little wee lad in Whitehall ripping up the football fields. He's right there. He's on the doorstep of it. And I think my man was a little hurt. Now, when I said he was perfect earlier, this dude might just be the perfect teammate, football player, off the field, community involved guy. His answers were perfect, but you can see the disappointment on his face. And in case you haven't seen Saquon Barkley yesterday, we even had a couple people in our Discord channel here at PHLY be like, oh man, after seeing him and hearing him talk about it, I might have swayed my stance a little bit here, because it clearly meant something to him. When he talks about, his family wanting it, and we're going to play that for you here in a second, you can really see and feel the human emotion of like, damn, I'm 101 yards away from NFL history, like legendary NFL status. Who's to say how long it takes? Eric Dickerson stood for 40 years, and, they're probably going to add an 18th NFL game here in the next couple of years, so maybe it gets broken in just 3 years. But you're in the history books. Like, you're in Canton, Ohio. You become one of those immortal, figures in NFL history. And I think there's a human element of, not ignoring that and what that means to him. So let's take a listen. This is courtesy of Elliott Shore Parks yesterday in the locker room. And you can listen, you can see. I mean, when the hood is up and you're just like, this is kind of a little bit of sulky Saquon. When you see it, you realize how important it was to Saquon Barkley.
Finding out you're not going to play on Sunday.
Yeah, Coach asked me, what I like to do. We had a conversation, and he called me back, let me know that we're probably going to be resting. And my reaction was kind of like, I told my family. Obviously, my family, probably wanted a little bit more than me. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is winning football games and winning the playoffs. So I got a bigger goal in mind.
What was your message to Nick when he did ask you?
I mean, he asked me if I wanted to play, if I want to go for it. I said on Sunday, I probably didn't care too much for it. When I slept on it, it was an opportunity to implant my name in football history. I may never get another opportunity like that again. So I'm down, but at the end of the day, I don't care if I'm putting the team at risk. He's the head coach for a reason. He makes those decisions, and whatever decision he wanted to make, I let him know if you want me to play, I'm going to go out there and make sure I get it. And if we don't, I'm okay with that too.
You said
he also talked to the line. What is it?
And that was pretty much the gist of it. You could tell on that second answer, he was disappointed that he doesn't have the opportunity to go, make NFL history. You could see, Saquon's a pretty uplifting, positive dude all the time, and his answers were perfect and all that. But you could see the human emotion was like, damn, I might not have this shot again. I'm 101 yards. And the other element of it for him, which does make, revenge is a dish best served cold, that's against the team that basically said, nah, you're not worth an extra $2 million to us. You're a franchise great and a franchise legend. And now you have the opportunity to break the record against them. The theater of it all is absolutely amazing. We're going to talk to Baldy about this later. Part of me wants to just say, screw it. Go out there and get it. Now, are the Giants going to put 9 guys in the box and try and take that away from you, knowing that if he was to play? Yeah, they probably are a little bit. So what? They're the worst rushing defense in the NFL. You know, I'm not saying you go play 4 quarters, but you give them a half. And, you know, maybe the 10 of the first 13 plays are rushing plays. You see how it goes. If he busts one 25-yard, 30-yard play, you're pretty much home free there at that point. So it's a shame. It's the smart thing to do. I'm not, like, upset about it. I'm not going to, like, lose sleep over it. But I do think you had a chance to clearly give, you know, a very important cog in your system an opportunity to sit in rare NFL air. And it's just a little bit of a bummer. Andrew, how do you feel overall? Now, I'm a guy that loves when my city's players win these individual awards and set records. And when Embiid MVP chase, totally get it. Like, I wanted him because it means something to them. And I feel like if you have, it's kind of like happy wife, happy life, happy running back, happy, you know, like, I just think there's some emotional equity that goes along with these things that are important.
Yeah. Well, good morning, Jamie. Happy New Year.
Yes, happy 2025.
Yeah.
How many times will you mess up writing the date in the first month?
I've already messed up. I'm not as good as you.
Yeah, I'm 1 for 1. No big deal. A lot of people are talking about
Happy New Year to everybody listening in right now. Selfishly, I would love for him to be there, you know, playing that game and getting this. It's 100 yards.
I know. It's right there.
100 yards. It's right there. It is obtainable against your old team. How sweet it would taste for him if he got it. But at the same time, I understand where they're coming from.
Sure.
At the end of the day, you want the ring. And in order to get the ring, you got to make sure that your team is healthy. I mean, look at it. They haven't had a bye since, what, week 4, week 5?
Yeah, week 5.
You know, so they've been playing a lot of football.
Sure.
So they do need some time to sit and rest and get themselves ready for, you know, this playoff run. You sit, all you got to do is go 4-0. That's all you got to do, you know, and I get it. Watching that video, I'm there with you.
Like, dude wants it.
He's upset.
He wants it.
It feels bad. I feel very bad for him because, like, he could easily get it, and it's not exclusive. Like, just because this whole narrative of, like, oh, he's going to go out there and he's going to get hurt.
Yeah.
He's been going out there for how many weeks now and hasn't gotten hurt? Why is it automatically assumed that, like, because he's going to play?
I think that a lot of people are saying because the second unit offensive line would be out there. And you're putting them behind, you know, something that's kind of, I don't want to say unfair to him, but not what he's accustomed to.
Yeah. I think the only thing that would really help his case here is if Jalen was ready to go, because I would like to see Jalen get some reps prior to the playoffs.
All right, I'm glad you said that because that was actually next on my notes.
Yeah.
I got called a concussion uncle in our Discord channel the other day.
Okay.
Because after the game on Sunday, Fran, Bo, myself, and Vinny were all talking about it, and Vinny was very pro Saquon going for it.
Yeah.
Like, he thinks that carries a lot of equity in that locker room. And I
agree.
agree with him.
Yeah,
you know, you
I
can
do
hear
agree.
the guys cheering for him and all that. Now, I got called a concussion uncle because I said I also want Jalen Hurts to play a little bit on Sunday. Now, look, people were like, oh, it's a concussion uncle. This is the preseason conversation all over again. And preseason football's stupid and you shouldn't. Yeah, this isn't preseason football. There's a reason why in the month of September, usually the NFL gets off to a slow start.
Yeah.
Because guys haven't played for 3-4 weeks heading into something.
Correct.
The reason I want Jalen Hurts to play a little bit on Sunday is because not playing for 3 games leading into the most important game of the year, I think is a little bit of a detriment.
Sure.
There is a physicality, there's a timing element, there's a cadence element.
Totally agree.
There's a groove that teams get in this time of the year. And I think for Jalen Hurts not to play for 3 games leading into a playoff situation is a little bit of a detriment.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. Like, to me, I'd play the first unit at least a quarter and kind of gauge it from there just to get Jalen kind of back in rhythm a little bit.
Yeah, and if you rewind back to 2022, when he gets the shoulder injury against the Bears, you know, there was that time where he was off, but he played that final game. I don't remember if he played the full game or whatnot, but I remember him playing that game, that final game against the Giants.
I feel like he took a set out of half and then they called it or something.
Yeah. Now, granted, they got the first round bye, in 2022, so they had that time off. But I agree. He needs to be there. He needs to get some reps in, even if it's a quarter. Like, just get there and just show us that you are capable of throwing the ball down the field. You don't look rusty, and you're ready to go.
Yeah, and the counter argument of the people calling me a concussion uncle in the Discord, which is fine. It's a hilarious
great
term.
name. Yeah.
I think that's a Bo Wolf special. Was that he's a vet. He doesn't need to do that.
That's a little BS.
Yeah, like I kind of think everyone is unfortunately affected by rhythm and timing and like cadence and like just being in the flow and the momentum of everything. So I do think, is Jalen Hurts going to be fine in game one, whether it's Green Bay or Washington? Yeah, he probably is.
Yeah.
But again, like I hate living in this bubble boy world where it's like, well, you can't play him. He's going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, there's a more likely scenario where he doesn't get hurt and he plays and, it's fine. And that's the same argument for Saquon. It's like, well, there's a very real situation here where the Eagles can win the Super Bowl and Saquon plays a half of football in week 18, sets an NFL record, and you have the best of both worlds.
Yeah, it's a very possible thing.
Yeah,
it's not like because
more
he's going to
likely
play,
than
they're
the
not
other.
going to win. Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's a pretty outlandish thing to say.
Yeah,
that they're
it's
not.
just like everybody's become Sith lords and everyone speaks in absolutes.
It's very true.
Yeah, like not everything is an absolute, not everything is a given, whether positive or negative. But we'll welcome in now Tyler Zulli, who's hot off.
Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah, fresh off the Johnny Marks show, rocking his Penn State semifinal gear. Congrats to your Penn State Nittany
Big
Lions.
win.
We'll talk about them a little bit later because there is a hilarious situation brewing.
Well, the hilarious situation that started was the dude carrying the American flag for Boise State
going
just
down.
eating it coming out of the tunnel.
But yeah, James Franklin
yeah,
versus Ryan Day in the national championship game. Oh, baby.
I don't think. Listen, as James Franklin says, 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. They're taking a look at Notre Dame and Georgia first, but
they can beat either of those teams.
I am like. I'm already have this like internal monologue of like losing to Ohio State in the national championship game would be the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life.
But if you beat him, it wipes the slate clean and he's a hero. So.
He gets a lifetime contract.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit
I do just
more
want to say
depth.
one thing real quick. Yeah. Horns down forever. Forks up. Texas will never be back.
Yeah,
even though they won that game.
Cam Scatterbo yesterday, just absolutely awesome stuff.
That dude's head.
He's got such a head.
He's unreal.
He is made to play football with that dome. Tyler, we started the show talking about, I don't know if you listened and watched Saquon in the locker room.
Yeah.
That dude wanted the record. You could see the human emotion of him being like, I may never be in this situation again. He's a football nerd. He knows what it means to be the all-time leading rusher for a season.
Sure.
How do you view it? My thing is kind of like, am I okay with him going out there with a second unit offensive line and playing with the Giants probably stacking the box, who just happened to be the worst rushing defense in the NFL ever since Dexter Lawrence left? Yeah, I think I am. And while I say that, what Nick Sirianni and the Eagles are doing is the smart decision.
So I heard what you were saying kind of coming in, and I get your guys' point of like, yes, you could have the benefit of both worlds. Like it could be the best of both worlds where there is a scenario where he plays and gets the record and then they go on and have a fruitful playoff run, right?
Sure.
That's certainly a plausible outcome. But I will say this. I think I was all for using Saquon in the method that you needed to use him because he is one of your skilled position players. He is maybe your skilled position player. And he was the catalyst that drove your offense. And you have a great receiving group. Your quarterback play has been very, very good. Mistake-free football for a lot of weeks now. But I think if we all looked at it objectively, we would say the catalyst of this offense is Saquon Barkley in the run game, right?
Absolutely.
So with that being said, I was all for him playing and getting as many touches as he needed to propel this team to victories because there were things that needed to be played for. There was a division that needed to be locked up. Well, before that, there was a postseason berth. Then there was a division. Then there was still a chance at the 1 seed and a bye. When all those things have culminated and you can't be the 1 seed, you're going to be the 2. You've won the division. You don't have any impact. Your game has no impact on you heading into the postseason. No. To me, it's about mitigating risks at that point. So I get you could theoretically.
I would say in normal situations, but I don't think this is a normal situation. Well, like I'm 100%. If Saquon is 350 yards away, it's not even a story. It's not even a question. I think him being so close and so obtainable to Canton, Ohio, and being in the history books for, who knows, maybe 40 years like Eric Dickerson.
Sure.
I think that makes it a non-traditional situation. And clearly it caused some thought in the Eagles organization.
Yeah,
they didn't announce it until
Lane
Wednesday.
Johnson basically said it's out of our hands. We didn't make the call. But you could also tell that they were kind of under the influence that it was probably going to play in that method. So you said
this is no surprise.
You brought up it's if he needed 200. I even think 100's a lot. That's a full game's worth of touches. If he needed 30, I would let him try them out there for a couple.
A little more last fourth quarter.
Maybe you do think about it. If it gets down to 30, maybe you are thinking about playing him in that dip. But,
sure.
But then again, you start having the conversation of you win that game 41-7. Mitigation of risks. I understand it's a contact sport.
Sure.
I understand it is a high-risk sport anytime you strap the helmet on. I don't want to take it to the extreme of the way Tua talked about it after suffering a concussion, where he's like, basically, I could walk outside and get hit by a bus. I think that's the phrase he used, in fact.
Look both ways, too.
But I don't want to take it to that extreme because that's crazy, especially coming off a pretty traumatic head injury and not just your first concussion, but multiple. I think that's an insane way to look at it. But I also do understand there is inherent risks in playing the game of football. It's the same as playing, in the NHL. It's I guess even in baseball to an extent, but it's not a contact sport. It's just about could you get hit with a pitch or something like that? But it's just, there's so many things that could happen. And some of them are positive. Some of them are Saquon Barkley breaks the rushing record and a Philadelphia Eagle holds the record. For how long is my next question?
Well, it probably goes to 8.
Because it goes to 18.
It goes to 18
games.
Yeah. Derrick Henry, I think, has basically, if he was to have a big game this weekend, he could have hit, basically almost 2,000 yards in 2 of his last 3 seasons. So chances are the record doesn't stand for 40 years, but you're still in the history books. You're still a legend of the game. And it was kind of a bummer just to see Saquon wear that on his sleeve a little bit and know how much that meant to him. I
get it.
And he was like, and that conversation with his dad, the family clearly wanted it. He said he was cool with it on Sunday, and then it kind of grew on him a little bit. And it's an interesting discussion. I think what the Eagles are doing is the smart thing. But I'm a sucker for personal achievements for my guys.
Sure. I do want to say one thing, by the way. I realized this as the words were coming out of my mouth. In light of the events that happened this weekend, I should not have used that phrasing.
Wow,
that was horrible phrasing on my part. I apologize. I'm going to jump ahead of this right now.
Completely unintentional.
I know it was not, obviously not intentional, but I just want to, as soon as it came out of my mouth, I said that's really poorly worded.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just immediately apologize for that, because that was just poor wording, not intentional, of course, but I do want to I just want to jump on that right now and say that was poor decision making on my part. So I apologize for that.
All good. I don't think anybody took that one intentionally.
No, I know, but as soon as I said it, it was it was kind of sitting on my chest. So
the other thing I want to
apologize for that.
Tyler was I got called a concussion uncle in Discord because after Sunday's game, I was like, I actually want to see Jalen Hurts play a little bit on Sunday. Where do you fall on that one of the not playing 3 games, basically a month at the end of the year? It sucks, to be honest with you. The
Jalen Hurts one is more topical, I think, because of the amount of time that he would miss.
Yes, I think Saquon could play behind the backups theoretically. Jalen Hurts would never.
Correct.
So it's more of a team decision with Hurts than it is almost with Saquon.
Sure. And so him missing what would then be 3 weeks of games I think that's what raises people's antennas a little bit, to say that's a long period of time. I know you and Andrew were talking about it just before I came on, where it is a long period of time to miss. And is there rust? Is there momentary get back feel to it? I will say this though, Adam Schefter put this out yesterday. He has not cleared concussion protocol yet. I don't know if that means he would have by game time. I don't know if that means.
I would think he would have, and they're just maybe taking their time a little bit here because there's no rush.
Sure.
But
also the new year, did they even practice yesterday?
I think it was a walkthrough yesterday.
So he may have just sat the walkthrough.
Yeah.
There's also that.
I'm not worried about him missing the playoff game, but that did raise my antenna a little bit yesterday.
Well, I think it comes down to like, if he's not cleared, he can't play, right? That's just objectively how it is.
Sure.
So if he's not cleared, I think that this whole argument is kind of null and void. But yes, I get your point where, you're talking about a handful of weeks now of not playing the quarterback position. It'll be because he was knocked out of the game pretty early against Washington. He only played what was it, 3 drives or something like that.
Basically a quarter.
He was out of the game pretty early. So you're talking about basically the entirety of the Washington game, all of the Cowboys game, and now all the Giants game. So it's going to be three full weeks effectively of not taking meaningful snaps. But there's nothing they can do. Like clearing of protocol is done by independent doctors.
Sure.
It's done by an independent group who are not there to look at like what's the best interest of the team, what's the best interest of this, like the next game. They're there to talk about what's the best interest of the brain injury that the player suffered.
Sure.
So, like in this case, that I'm just leaving it up to.
I would assume he would be cleared if it was a game he was playing in. And that could be
I don't
wrong.
know the answer to that.
Yeah, that's an assumption, and you know what happens when you assume. You make an ass out of you and me. So, but
sure.
My medical diagnosis tells me he probably would be cleared if this was the game he's playing in, but who knows? All right, let's take a quick break here and tell you
We're
about
skilled doctors here, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night. Let's tell you about some of our friends here at PHLY. And that, of course, is our friends over at Rothman Orthopedics. Everybody's got something they love. Devon Givens, unfortunately, he tore the ACL playing hoops. He loves playing hoops. We're going to talk to him at 10 o'clock. Rothman fixed him up right. I got a little bit of a shoulder issue going on. It's hurting. It's aching. And one of my hobbies is golf. I love golfing. And once I took a drive the other day, and I felt it in the shoulder, and I went, oh, no, it's getting in the way of something I love. And whether it's running or gardening, shooting hoops, crossing up a defender, Rothman Orthopedics and their physicians are not only specialized in orthopedics and clinical research, but they are fellowship trained to treat specific areas of the body. Since 1970, their physicians have remained committed to research, innovation, and minimally invasive procedures to get you back to what you specialize in. They're Rothman Orthopedics, and they specialize in you. For more than 50 years, Rothman has participated in thousands of groundbreaking research and clinical trials with the goal of advancing knowledge, developing treatments, and improving outcomes for the benefit of you, their patients. Rothman Orthopedics, specialize in orthopedics and you. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more or to make an appointment today.
Yeah, let me tell you about our friends over at Golden Nugget Jeweler, because listen, your hometown football team is chasing a ring, and you can too with our friends at Golden Nugget Jeweler. Head on down to Chestnut and 8th and Chestnut in downtown Philly. They have been family owned and operated since 1987. And if you're looking to pop the question to your special someone, they have a wide assortment of rings and wedding bands to fit anyone's style. And of course, you will receive a final cleaning and written appraisal with every engagement ring bought. So it's not just wedding rings too. Listen, you don't have to just think about, that day, that special day with your special someone. You keep coming back because their quality and their service is what keeps you coming back through the door. You can find gifts like watches, diamond necklaces, diamond bracelets, earrings, and so much more. You deserve an expert. Not just an expert, but somebody who offers the best price as well. Head on over to Golden Nugget Jeweler. It's where Philly gets engaged. Head on over to goldennuggetjeweler.com to learn more.
All right, a couple other Eagles things. We got Brad Feinberg coming up in a little bit, and then we got Devon Givens. You know him.
I've heard of him.
Yeah.
He's my friend.
At 10 o'clock. I did not stay up late for the Sixers collapse last night, but we'll get the latest from
that seems to be the trend for a lot of people. Is I didn't watch that last night. Glad I didn't watch
West
that
Coast
last
trips
night.
when you're washed and
They're
old.
tough, man.
It's tough. We all can't be Anthony Gargano freak levels of staying up till 3 a.m. watching.
You know what's
West
funny
Coast
too?
games.
Like you and I have had this conversation before. I was always a night owl. Like Devon and I did nights at the station for years.
Oh yeah, I used to be a 2 a.m. guy
2 a.m. was
regularly.
routine. And for me, the night was like I would get home, I'd watch a West Coast basketball game, I'd play some video games. Like that was my time, my chill time. Now I'm getting up at 2:30, with the baby.
Oh, yeah.
So like I'm in bed at like 9:30, 10 o'clock. So I'm washed.
Oh.
So and it hits you
9:30 bedtime becomes the norm.
It hits you quick, man.
Kids change
It hit
everything,
quick.
Tyler.
But yeah, these West Coast games have gone from I work them, this is routine, to oh my God, it's 7:30. Need another cup of coffee.
With the game last night, Georgia Notre Dame originally scheduled for 8:45. Like as soon as I see those start times, I'm like, all right, doing it. Yeah, well, I guess I can do it.
And the thing is too, like as games get bigger, you get deeper into the college football playoff. You get to the Super Bowl, NBA
later
playoffs.
Later.
8:45 really means like 9:05 at some point.
Kicks off by 9:07.
And then halftime's 20 minutes.
By the way, real quick,
performance.
before we get back into the Eagles discussion here, when that Arizona State Texas game goes to OT, there's got to be
you have to push the Rose Bowl back.
You got to push the
You
Rose
have
Bowl
to push
back.
the Rose Bowl.
I hated
I
that.
missed the first touchdown.
The overlap.
Yeah.
I know it was so bad.
You gotta space that out
By the time
better.
everybody got to switching over to the Rose Bowl, Jeremiah Smith had already scored.
Yeah, the game was like almost over.
Or
Ohio
here's
State-
another thing: maybe get one of the 2 field goals that you missed, and then the game would have been over a lot
that's
sooner.
true. Actually, well, those missed field goals helped me cash the over
Oh,
because
well,
it was
there you go.
51 and a half.
There,
And if he made that, it would have been 51. So good misses there, buddy.
Yeah, great job.
And when he went out to kick the last one, and Sarkisian had to be the glory hog and steal the limelight and be like, "I love you, you're gonna make." They were like, "Well, he's 9 for 9 in kicks of 30 yards or less this year," and I was like, "Yes!" They put the jinx on him.
Shouldn't have said
and then
it.
doink.
Yep.
That was awesome.
Poor Bert.
Is that his name?
That's his name.
Yeah.
Bert Auburn.
Yeah. Well, he's got the Auburn hair.
It's not a real name.
no.
Like it's when you play Madden and you're like 20 years into your franchise and the game's
Bert
just throwing
Auburn.
names together. That's Bert Auburn for you.
Tyler.
Yes.
There is a Green Bay Packer Washington Commander decision sort of up for grabs here for the Eagles. I personally, now Jair Alexander is done.
Yep.
Might not be back until the Super Bowl if all goes well for him. That's a huge loss for the Packers. I think I've shifted where I'd rather face the Packers than the Commanders. Something about Jaden Daniels, I don't want to say scares me, but worries me more than a Jordan Love Packers situation. I do think the Packers are the better team of the two, although it's like neck and neck. I think I'd rather face the Packers than the Commanders. Where do you lie on this one?
Yeah, you don't want to like oversimplify things and just say Jaden Daniels or
But he kind of is
but
everything.
It certainly feels like it's become that way. Because if I look at the two rosters, like if you take Jordan Love, and maybe this is unfair too, but if you take Jordan Love and put him on Washington and you take Jaden Daniels and put him on Green Bay, who's better? I think it's Green Bay by a lot.
Yeah, I think so,
and
too.
I think Jordan Love's a good quarterback, but I think Jaden Daniels, at least for this year, and I think there's a trajectory of moving forward.
Nasty.
He's legit.
Yeah.
Like Jaden Daniels is the superior, or is going to be the superior quarterback for a majority of his career. Now, you can also say the inverse is Jaden Daniels has not played in a playoff game yet in his NFL career as a rookie. Like rookie numbers, like the teams going up against rookie quarterbacks in their first NFL playoff start, those numbers are pretty good over the course of their career, over the course of like the NFL tenure. I hate to oversimplify it, but for weeks I said, I think Washington is the way to go. I think Washington is the lesser talented team. They have good skill position players, right? They have Jaden Daniels, of course, at the top. Brian Robinson's a nice running back. I think he's a very good running back.
Yeah,
in fact,
very good.
Terry McLaurin's an excellent number one. They're outside of McLaurin, their receiving options don't worry me too much, like Olamide Zaccheaus and
who had a really nice game last week.
Sure.
And Ertz, credit to him.
He's played well.
Kind of a hell of a year.
I would not be stunned if Washington ends up looking at a tight end position fairly high in the draft coming up. But I think if you're asking me, like, who's the better team? I think the answer is Green Bay.
Same.
If you're asking me who would worry me more, an individual player,
I think it's Washington.
It's Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
So I've been so back and forth on this.
I know. I flip-flopped.
That I'm not sure where I've settled yet. And I know that that's a coward's answer.
Sunday I was, give me the Commanders. There's no way they come in here. You know, the Eagles are the better team, clearly. Now I think I've shifted a little bit to bring on the Packers.
Green Bay has the sixth best rushing defense this season. They've only given up 1,606 rushing yards this season on 400 carries. They've only given up 4 yards a carry. They've given up 12 scores, only 9 plays of 20 yards or more. They are one of 4 teams one of 5 teams in the NFL, which includes the Eagles, who have not given up a 40-yard rush this season. It's a very good run defense. I think it's a very good defense overall. I think that both of these teams, the Eagles and the Green Bay Packers, are different than what we saw in week 1.
Yeah.
I probably will have an answer for you
after Sunday.
A week from now. Yeah.
When does the narrative switch, though, to instead of us being worried about who our opponent is, the opponent is worried about playing us?
They should be now.
We should be at a point now where we can pound our chest a little bit and say, it doesn't matter who's coming here. They're coming to the link and playing us.
Everybody
should
catch
be
his
now.
hands.
Or playing the Eagles, you know?
Yeah.
They have beaten the Baltimore.
They've beaten both of those teams.
You know, they've beaten really good teams, really stout defenses in the this season. I'm not worried about who comes here, whether it's Green Bay, whether it's the Commanders. They have to play in front of that Eagles crowd, this Eagles team at the link. I think it's going to be hell for whoever comes here.
Yeah.
By the way, this portion of the show is brought to us by our friends over at Bet Parks and the Parks Casino. You play for fun, you love to win, you bet at Bet Parks. Download the app and play along with us at Bet Parks.
So I'm curious, talking to Baldy at 10:30 here, coming up a little less than an hour from now, to hear schematically, division opponent, all that, who he thinks is the better opponent for the Eagles to face.
Can I ask you a question? Because I see the discourse happening on the chat right now.
What's the chat saying? What up, chat?
There has to be a middle ground between the rushing record means a million different things, and it's amazing. And
it's cool.
The other side is, if the Eagles don't win the Super Bowl, all of this discourse is meaningless. Like, winning a Super Bowl and winning a championship is hard. It's very, very hard. And the Eagles are going to have to beat 4 good teams to win the Super Bowl. Wild card round,
NFC
division round. The NFC is good. NFC championship, Super Bowl. Like, you got to win 4 good teams, beat 4 good teams, and at least one will be on the road, assuming that the
Detroit
North winner,
lose,
the North winner gets to the NFC championship.
I think Detroit's actually a little prime for the picking with that defense. They're decimated.
They're losing a lot of guys. So my point is, like, can we find a middle ground between, like,
absolutely not. There's no middle grounds in this world.
There has to be somewhere, right?
No.
Like,
absolutely not. I mean, the one thing that nobody talks about is there's a perfectly real situation where Saquon goes and gets the NFL rushing record and the Eagles still win the Super Bowl. Like, it doesn't, to your point,
that's a real thing.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be one or the other.
It could be both.
Sure, absolutely.
It also, like, there's a infinite world, right? You use the Star Wars reference, I'll use the Marvel reference. Like, there's infinite universes and multiverses.
Oh, we're going multiverse?
Where they do neither, right?
Sure.
And that's the doomsday scenario, is Barkley doesn't play this week because they're trying to keep him healthy. And they get bounced early, right?
Sure.
Like, nobody wants to talk about that because I don't think it's a realistic.
That's like more realistic than doing both, of winning the Super Bowl. And,
I guess, like,
and
from a
numbers
numbers standpoint, sure.
I mean, the Eagles have a really good chance to win the Super Bowl.
Of course,
year.
Yeah, I agree.
You probably put that percentage at like 17%.
I mean, I think that
they're whatever the math sorts out to be. It's
they're
not
amongst
high.
the highest percentage. Like, to me, it's them, Kansas City,
Detroit,
and Buffalo.
Yeah. And they all probably are around, like, 16 to 20%. Sure. So, like, to your point, it's very hard to do that.
So I think we have to find a way to enjoy a success, has objectively been a successful season.
Oh, no doubt.
But with the understanding, we have expectations of this team making at least a semi-deep run into the postseason. Like, if they lose in the wild card round, we're going to be mad. If they lose in the divisional round,
wherever they lose,
we'll be sad. If they lose in the NFC Championship game, we'll just be, like, heartbroken.
Yeah.
But there's levels to it where any of these infinite number of things could happen. I think you have to appreciate the fact that this has been a good team, and Saquon's having an excellent individual season. This team has a chance to get to the Super Bowl. All of those things rolled up into, like, a big vacuum is where you're sitting right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of a fun discussion, to be honest with you, because, I think there's several outcomes where both sides are right. I think resting them is the smart decision. It's not something that, like, angers me. It's just a little bit of a bummer. Now, speaking of the guys, he didn't really get into specifics, and he being Coach Nick Sirianni yesterday, about who's going to sit. But you have to think, he said some guys are going to sit. So let's just kind of go through it real quick here of, guys that we can expect to take a breather this weekend. I would think that's 100%. Obviously, it's Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. But I think it's Lane Johnson.
I
think it's Jordan Mailata.
Although,
and if I had to guess, Dickerson. maybe Becton plays a little bit. Like
yeah,
you
I
are
mean, you
gonna
can't
need,
sit all 5 guys.
You can't
right?
sit all 5. I would think Juergens plays some. Is that kind of your
So,
read also
I
on the
think
line?
The easier way to look at it is like who is going to play of the reserves. Like Tyler Steen's
definitely
right?
playing.
That's
I think Jack
definitive.
Driscoll's going to end
Driscoll's
up
going to play a lot.
Fred Johnson is
and
going to
Fred
play.
Johnson's going to play one of the
so
tackle
that's 3 of the
positions.
5.
After that, like you can't. I don't think you have the flexibility to sit all 5 guys for the
probably
entirety
not.
of the game.
That's why I think Becton plays some because
He has been limpy though the last couple
he
of
has
games.
been limpy.
he had
So
an ankle
I
issue.
wouldn't be shocked if they do sit him just because of the injury that's been going on with him.
So do you go?
Nick Gates is going to get some time.
Do you go Johnson, Steen, Juergens?
Driscoll probably plays tackle for Lane, right?
Well, no,
and-
John. I mean, unless both the tackles sit, because Fred Johnson's playing.
Well, Fred can play he's more of a left than a
He
right.
could play both. Correct.
He could play both.
So
but
my
I think
question
Driscoll
is
more of a right than a left. I don't think he is.
Well, so what I'm saying is, assuming both don't play, like if Mailata plays but Johnson sits or inverse,
I think Mailata and Johnson, you got to.
if they both sit, then yes, that's probably Fred
Yeah.
Johnson left.
I mean, your backup on the depth chart is Fred left. Steen is listed. So this is where somebody has to play, or Darian Kennard is playing. Tyler Steen is listed as your left guard and your right guard depth.
yeah,
at
he's going to
second
play
team.
one of the 2 guard
So
spots, unless
maybe
he's
you
Bugs
get-
Bunny and can play everywhere.
Maybe you get Kennard playing. All right, so offensive line, obviously A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert not playing.
Yeah, Jahan Dotson,
Oof.
Johnny Wilson.
Yeah.
Is Anais Smith available?
Probably. Right?
Probably Anais Smith.
And Britton Covey got IR'd. So that's
Well, and the
not
thing is
great.
with the tight end position, Calcaterra is going to have to play.
He has to. Yeah, they're not
because
playing Goddard.
They won't bring Goddard back, and they just put Uzama on the IR.
So E.J. Jenkins.
So it'll be him and EJ Jenkins.
Yeah. Okay. So offensively. Now defensively, I think the number one guy that needs rest is Jalen Carter.
Yes.
Like 100% not dressing. Don't even think about it. Zach Bond, I would like to get off his feet a little bit. Darius Slay, just because he's a vet and you have some young guys, whether it be Ricks or whoever, Ringo.
Rodgers will play.
Rodgers will play. I'm okay, I guess, with Cooper and Quignon playing a little bit. Like maybe you want to get them off their feet because of the rookie wall. And then defensive line, maybe Jordan Davis and Nolan Smith, Nakobe Dean. Like I think the defense is much harder to gauge. I guess you just go Trotter and Oren Burks out there and sit.
Linebackers
Bond
probably
and-
easy to determine.
Yeah, but defensive line wise, do you sit Nolan Smith? I guess you give Jalix Hunt and the Bryce Huff like full go.
Sure.
But I think Jalen Carter's the most important guy to get a blow this weekend.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I think he is the most important piece to your defensive line.
Absolutely.
Like he is your creator. He's your havoc guy. Yeah. He is the double team commander. He is everything, right? Like all of those attributes.
Josh Sweat? Is he?
I mean, listen, again, guys are going to have to play. Like
Thomas Booker,
you're not giving just because somebody gets elevated to the starter role, especially on the defensive line. Like offensive line's a little bit different where those guys will play most snaps or all snaps even. But like defensive line, you're still going to rotate. Right? You're like
because the problem is if those guys don't play, there's really no third string defensive line. Like it's all like if any of your second stringers got hurt, then you're
probably going to have to cycle through.
Get off the IR and go play defensive line.
You're going to cycle through, maybe some of, I guess you're like, if you're talking about like lesser or greater starters, you're going to cycle through those guys first.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's going to be not a fun watch this weekend. The more and more we talk through this, I still think they can beat the Giants, and it would be a hilarious bit if Drew Lock goes out. I think his performance last weekend was the best of any quarterback in the NFL this year.
Yeah.
Which is so funny.
That is really funny. They're not playing any other starters, the Giants.
Is Tommy Cutlets playing?
They announced that, I think, this morning.
Neighbors, it would be dumb for them to play, obviously.
Well, it was dumb for them to win last week because they, you want the draft pick. So I think they were like, I think we really need to lose here.
But they've put themselves.
They went from first to fourth.
Yeah, they've put themselves behind the 8 ball because John and I were talking about it this morning. Like the teams that are surrounding them, a lot of them are playing to get that draft. Like not directly, of course. Not like there's prideful units amongst every team. Like Malik Neighbors talked about it with the Giants. Wan'Dale Robinson talked about it with the Giants. Like these guys are playing for jobs, especially guys that are fringe players like a Drew Lock. Drew Lock is playing
for a
to
job
find his
elsewhere.
next job.
Yeah.
So like I don't begrudge guys for going out and playing hard and trying to win a game.
It's just funny. If you're the Giants, you probably should have started Tommy Cutlets last weekend.
Yeah. I mean, if you're looking to win by losing, then yes.
You take it out of their hand and don't give Drew Lock the ability to go out there and light up somebody. But yeah, New York last weekend went from 1st to 4th because of the tiebreakers and common opponents and all that thing. So now New England is sitting 1, Tennessee 2, Cleveland 3, New York 4. And if I'm New England and I end up with the number 1 pick,
King's ransom.
I am trading that so fast it'll make your head
unless
spin.
you really feel like Travis Hunter is that dude.
You go Travis Hunter.
And Travis Hunter is that dude, right? But
are you really taking a cornerback number 1 overall?
Or a receiver? Hey, now.
Both. Well, you're taking both.
He could play either one.
But he's probably a more sure thing.
To me, he's a corner over a receiver in the NFL.
But he'll be used for both.
But he will play both. Yes.
But with the quarterback desperation of Tennessee, Cleveland, the Giants, the Jets, Las Vegas, New Orleans. Let
me ask you:
I am trading that.
Is
so
there
quick.
a quarterback over the other that you would prefer if you were one of these teams?
I think it's kind of a weak quarterback class.
Isn't Shador like the best one?
Shador is probably going to go number 1.
Cam Ward probably is going to go in the top 3.
Yeah.
So the Giants get a chance at either one of them.
But Tennessee, Cleveland ahead of them both.
Tennessee and Cleveland are ahead of them, so never mind.
Yeah. They did. They had that. That's kind of why it's like objectively hilarious.
And Shador was in the locker room with Giants-colored cleats before their bowl game, and their big recruit was talking about how I'm sitting here in awe of the Giants' next quarterback, Shador Sanders. So they believed he was going to New York.
My next question is, and I know he's already made the decision that he's returning to school next year. If Penn State beats Georgia or Notre Dame, does Drew Aller reconsider? I think Drew Aller could use another year.
If he wins a national championship, I would have to think his draft stock
is going to rise, right?
Yeah.
I think that Drew Aller could use another year at college. I do. I think he would benefit from it. He's a good quarterback. His pocket awareness has gotten better. He's done a really good job of going through his progressions and his reads. But I think he could use another year's worth of.
I agree.
Of college seasoning.
I was actually hoping he came out this year and the Eagles could have taken him in the late 2nd, early 3rd, because I think he's a great project, get in your system type of guy. He's got the physical tool sets.
So that's my point. Is right now
I was kind of hoping you could grab him late and develop him.
My guess was that his expectation especially for going back to school, was
be a first-round pick.
He's going to be a first-round pick next year, and he wants to be played into a first-round pick.
Sure.
His physical attributes are good. I wouldn't say he is an elite. He's not an elite athlete. He's a decent. No. He runs when he needs to. He's got a good arm. Physical attributes are good. His IQ has gotten better. Like last year, I thought he was a little foolish in the pocket. I think he escaped too early at times and then didn't escape at times. I think this year he's been much better in the pocket and having spatial awareness. I think he could use another year at college. But if they get to a national championship or they win a national,
does he become a late first-round pick? He might.
Probably
does. That'll be interesting to see. All right, we got him. And Tyler, you can tell us all about who presents us with the brain.
Yeah, of course. Our friend Brad is brought to us by our friends over at Bet Parks and the Parks Casino. You play for fun. You love to win. You bet with Bet Parks. This is how you win. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Brain. Brad, the brain Feinberg.
There he is, Mr. Brad Feinberg. Brad, how we doing, buddy?
Good morning, man. How you guys doing?
I was doing great yesterday until the old gambler's greed bit me in the ass, Brad. I had Arizona State. I had the over in Arizona State. Thank God for that missed field goal at the end. I had the over in Oregon, Ohio State. I'm sitting pretty. I'm riding 3-0. And what do? I got a little bit greedy, and I went and I kind of doubled down on the second half over there in Oregon, Ohio State at 69.5. I bit off a little more than I could
actually
chew,
liked it.
And I shot myself in the foot. Yeah.
I bet over 66.5. I got 24.5 in the second half. And I bet Oregon -3. I thought it was a great correlated. I'm sorry. Yeah. Oregon -3 and over 24.5. I thought it was a great correlated bet where I felt there was such a high probability that Oregon was, again, they're playing for their lives, that they're
Sure.
going to score. And I figured I broke even basically because I won the Oregon -3. Like they just needed to score 2 touchdowns for me to at least break even. And they did. But again, at the end there, again, there was I think it was 13-7. It was 20 points scored in the second half. Oh, actually, you needed another 8 points.
Yeah.
Okay, I only needed another, like, I guess 5. So I just needed one more touchdown. And I was hoping when it was 41-20 or whatever, 44-23, whatever the score was, at the end, they were going to go for it. It was 4th and 20 at their own 20, but there's 4 minutes to go in the game. You're down. I mean, like, who cares if you lose by 21 or 28? I mean, I wouldn't have punted. I would hope for a pass interference I never would have punted there. Again, to me, I would never give up. I've seen teams come down. You've seen it before. Teams come down from 20 points with 4 minutes to go. It's not like it's never happened in the history of football. I would have tried, but they didn't. But I thought it was a good bet. Just didn't get there.
Yeah. What did you make of the games yesterday in total? It was I think the best day of the college football playoffs we've had so far. For the most part, pretty good stuff.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I had bet, my big bet was over 54.5 in the Oregon game, which won. Didn't bet the ASU game. I had the slightest lean towards ASU because I just think all these teams are close. Watching the game, though, I did live bet ASU because I thought ASU was like light years better. Forget better. I felt light years better. And they were favoring Texas at big margins. And I thought that was a game where just they got incredibly lucky to win the game, let alone, I mean, I just felt ASU was clearly the better team. And it's funny, I bet no overtime games in the playoffs before these playoffs. And every game's been like a 20-point game.
Sure.
And then the guy missed that field goal, and I'm like, oh, so much for that. But I feel like ASU showed that they were they were a pretty good team. And Texas, it's just interesting. I just don't know if they have the right quarterback in there. That's kind of when I watch them play. Something about their offense. They played well. He played well at the end. Ewers, he got it. The 4th and 13 play was great. The overtime pass was great. Second overtime pass was great. So he plays well in spots, but there's just something about this Texas team I just can't get myself to trust. Interesting line. That line has moved a ton from what it would have been before the playoffs. If they were playing, Ohio State was playing Texas in the Cotton Bowl before any playoff games were being held, I think that line would have been around a pick 'em. Maybe Ohio State 1-2 at the most. It's now, I think, 6.5.
Wow.
Because of how great Ohio State has looked and how pedestrian Texas has looked against both Clemson. They could have easily, that game was not a good performance. And in this game, they got their butts kicked, but they got a fortunate win.
Yeah, Brad, I was watching, I feel like 45 minutes of that game, and I'm like, well, pretty boring game. Texas has this, Arizona State. And then Arizona State has a 3rd and goal from about the 3. And two consecutive plays that just felt like they went nowhere, and they ran right into the heart of what Texas does well, which is stuff the run up the middle.
Sure.
And I felt like that game was kind of over. But for anybody that bet the over, I think a pleasant surprise the way that Arizona State came to life in the fourth quarter. To me, it ended up being it was like 45 minutes of snooze and then 20 minutes of like one of the best games we've seen in a long time.
I think that's exactly what it was. It's funny because through 3 quarters, you're right. It was a kind of a snooze fest. Look, I respect Texas's defense, and I didn't think Arizona State was going to have the success they had offensively at all. Let me make that clear. I was not expecting that. But listen, I always say to everyone watching, to me, the best thing to do in these games, and I say it every show, and I'm going to keep saying it, have no bias. And what I mean by that is you may go into a game saying, I love Texas or I love ASU. Try to go into a game saying, I don't love anyone. Let my eyes judge what I'm seeing. What am I seeing? And if you watch that game yesterday, even when Texas was up by 2 touchdowns, yeah, they got the big punt return for a touchdown, but ASU was moving the ball consistently. And I do mean consistently. They just weren't scoring at all times. Apologize about the dogs here barking. But they were just moving the ball consistently. And I felt like watching that game that ASU was the team that was having an easier time moving the ball throughout the game, and I thought that was a pretty good live bet. And I always say again, watch the games and judge for yourself. Is one team's offensive line not able to go to the Super Bowl when the Chiefs played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? You could see Mahomes had no chance in that game. Every single play, Tampa Bay was pressuring him. He had no chance. Watch the game and live bet these things. Parks has it, and I really think that's the best chance to make money, in my opinion.
So Brad, unfortunately, due to the events in New Orleans, the Notre Dame, horrible stuff. The Notre Dame Georgia game got postponed to 4:00 this afternoon. How do you make sense of this one? I took some of my winnings yesterday and laid it on Georgia already. What are you seeing in this game?
All right. We're a boy band because we're in sync. I have Georgia as well. Look, it's interesting. I got kind of lucky on this one. I laid Georgia minus like $1.20 with the money line maybe 10 days ago, and it flipped, and my bet got canceled because the day of the venue changed. I would make sure for your bet that they didn't cancel it or postpone it. Everyone watching, you put in this bet, whatever sports book it was, make sure if you have a bet that was not put in like today or last night, after the game change time, that if your bet still stands. Very important, because you may think a bet stands and it doesn't or whatnot. So make sure you check on that. But I was able to get Georgia plus 100. I was supposed to laying like $1.20. So I got kind of fortunate with that. I think Georgia's going to win here. Look, Georgia's been an erratic team all year. They have, I admit that. But I think part of that, and I really, having watched them all year, I just thought Carson Beck was the most overrated player in the sport of college football.
He was throwing 2 picks a game.
I ranked him quite high before the year. I really did. And I thought Beck was a real potential stud. If that guy makes the NFL, I know nothing, because I don't think he's even close to an NFL. I really don't. I think he's bad. I think he's actually bad. And watching him, I thought he was such a negative for Georgia. Now, Stockton, listen, there's not a ton of data here. What I'm going by was I like the mobility. I like the spunkiness factor, so to speak, where you just seem to have that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when I saw Kirby Smart interviewed after the game, you can't fake this. There was a genuine, this kid's a winner. This kid has the it factor. Kind of like what I thought I saw. And he obviously knows the guy a trillion times better than me, but I just think that it's not only not going to be a downgrade. I just think on the blind, it's almost like I felt like Georgia was getting 16s against 10s in blackjack with Carson Beck. How much worse can it be with this kid? I mean, I don't know. Maybe they got a 16 against an ace. You give me the answer. But I just feel like on the blind, I like their chances to score here more. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. I respect Notre Dame a lot. Notre Dame has improved. That early loss they had, I forget who it was. Was it Northern Illinois?
Yes.
They lost. It was just horrible. Give credit to them. Look, I think Leonard is a winner at quarterback. They've done a great job coaching staff-wise with Freeman. I respect Notre Dame very, very much. I do. Don't know if I see quite enough playmakers. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game, but I just trust Georgia to win the game. But I will say this, the SEC, let's be fair. How good is the SEC? I mean, you have Ole Miss was kind of, thought of as this great team, really wasn't. Alabama loses to a Michigan team, which I couldn't believe. They had no one playing. I don't know how Texas got outplayed last week. How good is the SEC really is the question as well. But I do like Georgia here to get the job done. I thought they should be a favorite, plus whatever home field advantage that, I think they'll get more people there in New Orleans. They've played in that building a ton. I do think Georgia wins it.
All right, so Brad, I'm taking my heart out of it, and I'm just looking at the numbers here. One thing that jumped out to me, Notre Dame 6th, Georgia 15th in points allowed in the second half this year. Notre Dame just over 7, Georgia just over 9. You said you feel like it could be a low-scoring game. Does the under feel like a good play for you then in this case? I believe.
Yeah, look, I definitely, definitely easy lean on under for me. Easy lean. This is one of these games where I wouldn't be surprised if it's 6-3 halftime. I just think it's going to be I think what I like about these games, the 4-point plays, right? When it's third and goal at the 4-yard line, those 4-point plays. I think it's going to be hard for these teams just to score because both these defenses I really do respect. So I don't think I think this is going to be a lower scoring, tough game. But again, I do think Georgia will prevail. I just have a little bit more faith in them. I think Notre Dame's going to have a hard time scoring. Not that Georgia isn't, but again, I'm on the blind. I just think Georgia offensively will look better than they've looked when they had Carson Beck throwing turnovers like every freaking play. And by the way, Carson not having the turnovers from Beck. Also, to me, when you're turning the ball over, it could lead to bad field position, for defensively for you. So, to me, I think just having that also helps the under as well because when Beck's throwing turnovers or pick sixes, that's not helping your under bet.
So, Brad, what are your best bets for us? Are we looking ahead at the NBA slate? We got week 18 NFL action. Always kind of tough sledding because you have to weigh who's playing for what, who's resting who. What do you got for us today?
Well, I'm going to give you Chris Middleton, the NBA. I'm going to start Chris Middleton, the NBA. The guy averages 5.5 assists. They made his over under 4.5. He's 7-3 to that over this year. 7-3, averaging 5.5 assists. He went over about 65% of the time last year as well. This is a number that to me is off by 1. And again, you're looking for that. You're not going to get crazy edges, but that is an edge. And then Damian Lillard, 3.5 rebounds, 21-4. You heard me right.
Whoa.
21-4 over. 21-4. He's gone over, 9 of his last 10. And again, last year it went over 52-25 last year. It's just a bet that should win. That again, this number should be 4.5. When you're making a low number and lower it by 1, it's like a soccer game. If the total number should be 2.5, you make 3.5. The under's a great bet. If you make a 1.5, the over's a great bet. Lillard, same thing here. This number should be 4.5. Take the over 3.5.
All right. Love it, Brad. Great stuff as always. We'll talk again tomorrow and look ahead to the weekend of week 18 NFL action.
NFL.
Always fun.
Appreciate you guys. Be good.
See you, Brad. And there he is, Brad, brought to us by the Bet Parks Sportsbook.
Yeah,
Let's take a quick moment and then Devon Givens joining us.
Yeah, let's tell you about our friends over at Bet Parks and the Bet Parks Sportsbook. There is a ton to get into today and tomorrow and into the weekend. Yeah, there's still pro football games to be played. And Jamie, I don't know if you know this. I did the numbers. 11 of the 16 games mean something for seeding and playoffs.
Wow.
So if the league did something right, they did that right. So there are 11 of those 16 games. And listen, of course, there's a college playoff game tonight, pro football this weekend, pro hoops, pro hockey, all weekend long, beginning on Sunday at 1 o'clock. The Birds are 3-point road underdogs. I believe 3-point home favorites, I believe, as of right now. So we'll see what happens. 3-point home favorites, I should say. I apologize. As of right now, we'll see what happens. The line may change as things go on, but of course, you can bet more than the spread in that game. You can bet things like player props, parlays, rushing and passing yards, sacks, interceptions, and so much more. And you can put them all together into a same game parlay to really boost your odds. You can get in on every game of the week, including all of the Week 18 action, and it is why it is the only online casino and sportsbook that I recommend and use. And oh yeah, but did I tell you, by the way, the physical location?
Yeah.
It's about 3 minutes from my house, so it's easy to get to. And sometimes when I want to be a couch potato, I just get on my phone and get on the Bet Parks Sportsbook and online casino app. They have your seat with live dealers, so you don't have to worry about just playing the games this week. You can also get in on some of the great table games, live slots, craps, roulette, and so much more. You can do it while you watch the game from the comfort of your home. Make your downtime fun with the Bet Parks app right now and enjoy all the action and excitement from the casino right at your fingertips. And new users download the Bet Parks online casino app and sportsbook and get up to $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. Casino bonus must be wagers. See betparks.com for details. Must be 21 and in PA, NJ, or Michigan. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLE. You play for fun. You love to win. You bet Parks.
And every time I get to do this read, I get really hungry because when I start thinking about primos and those seeded rolls, and my go-to is a turkey Diablo, but I often fantasize about their chicken cutlets, the bada bing. There's so many good things at Primo Hoagies. Right there's a little QR code. You can download the Primo's app for the free hoagie sweepstakes going on. I mean, the quality lunch meat. I often sit here fantasizing about Thuman quality deli meats on the seeded roll and the onions. And one of my go-to purchases every time I'm in a Primo's is the pepper shooters right there in the to-go case. It's awesome, whether you're going down the beach, up to the mountains, hitting the ski slopes, or going to the pool, whatever that may be, or tailgate, maybe you're going to an Eagles-Giants game on Sunday. A Primo Hoagie always hits the spot. And don't forget about their party trays, because it's a staple of Lynch family parties. There's always a Primo party tray at every family gathering, because there's something for everyone in there. It's always the best. Visit PrimoHoagies.com. There's locations everywhere, and share the joy of one of Philadelphia's great exports with Primo Hoagies. All right, let's get to our man. I haven't talked to him in a little while, since before the holidays even, and I believe he's there. Andrew, correct? Let's bring him in. He's one of the three key figures of the PHLY Sixers, of course, of which I'm rocking today. A little PHLY Sixers hoodie action. Let's bring in Devon Givens.
Devon Givens.
NBA.
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 I did not know we had
I've never seen that before.
That is awesome. What an honor, Devon.
VG, man.
Yeah,
VG.
What's funny is I was actually watching a Tribe Called Quest documentary last night with no late
Is
night
that the
college.
one with Michael Rappaport?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw
It
that
was
one.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Devon, how was the holidays, man? How's the family? Everything good?
Everything's good. Thank you. It was great. Hope the same for you and the family. So,
Yeah, it was great.
You and Ty. Yep.
Yeah, minus the norovirus that took out probably 35 of 60 family members. It was great.
Really? Oh.
Oh, it was nasty,
Wow.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
that's
spread like
nasty.
wildfire. We were all just dropping like flies, but it was all good. It went by quick.
Yep.
Devon, I did not make it to the second half last night. The Sixers collapsed. Break it down for us. What happened? No Joel Embiid, but what happened there in the final 3-4 minutes of the game?
The Sixers did make it to the second half. They didn't make it to the final 5 minutes of the game, or let's just say the final 4, because they were up by 7. Yeah, it was a big time collapse, man. Being up at 1.9 points in the fourth quarter and then up by 7. The Kings decided to call a timeout, and even after a timeout, just bad execution by the Sixers. Turnovers, multiple turnovers by, and especially your 2 stars in George and Maxey. And that's really what happened, man. I mean, the fact that you just need to win that one by 1 point. Just get the win. We can discuss all the other stuff later on. Just don't blow the lead completely where you lose that basketball game. Snapping their season-long 4-game winning streak, a very winnable game on the front end of a back-to-back, where you have to go into San Francisco tonight to take on Steph Curry and the Warriors. You need to walk away with that win. And we always talk about on the show that the hole that they've dug themselves in, now they have to win these games. In the past, games like this, they would just win it because they were better, and they would lose. We would complain about it because of how they lost, but we know the big picture, it wouldn't be all that troubling for them when it comes down to it. But for the fact that they've gotten themselves in the spot that they are currently in, going into the game 13-17, looking to improve to 14-17, and just simply moving up in the Eastern Conference, you need to win that basketball game last night. They have a chance tonight, but they really dropped the ball, literally dropped the ball last night against the Sacramento Kings.
So, Devon, I know rotations are difficult when you're missing key players. Of course, your best player is out, and then Kelly Oubre doesn't play last night either. How does Nick Nurse's decision-making last night to have, and listen, it's only 17 minutes, but Kyle Lowry plays 17 minutes, no points. Reggie Jackson plays 13, 3 points. Eric Gordon plays 27 minutes. Like, these older veteran guys who have not provided you what you're hoping for in spurts, like, does that decision-making come down to, we've got a back-to-back, one of our key players is out, our superstar is out? Like, is that just a live to fight another day type of thing where these guys have kind of got some significant run last night?
Pretty much, because that's what they have on their roster. That's what the roster is. There's no one else that you can miraculously pull in, right, and put them on the roster to play in a game like that last night. Those are the players you have. KJ Martin, you also, the fact that he's been out with the foot injury as well, that also messes up your rotation. And then when you decide to start Yabusele instead of Drummond, not much of a problem there. It was just a rebounding factor, knowing that Sabonis is going to come in and rebound the basketball at a higher rate. How do you compound that? Well, the Sixers did build up a lead. So it really didn't hurt them. And Drummond came in off the bench, played his role, and played pretty well. But when you look at the guards, Gordon, after missing time after the dental surgery, he played well. Jackson and Lowry in their minutes, not so much. Kyle Lowry playing 17 minutes. Normally you look at him 10 to 15, but in the starting role, and I understood it from a starting role. Number one, who else are you going to start? Number two, you want to also have Maxey play off the ball a little bit, and Kyle Lowry, as we know, can set the offense, initiate things, get him some decent looks. Even though he's not necessarily a threat anymore to shoot or to score, he can still get you in your actions, get you in the right stuff to make sure that you get a decent look on the offensive end. But it didn't work out for them last night, especially down the stretch when you had to go with the lineup that you did, and then your stars don't close the game out. It didn't hurt them all that badly because of the fact that they were winning the game. But when you get down the stretch and your two all-stars are the ones that really cough it up for you, then it does become a problem. It kind of highlights things, as you just laid out, Ty, that they have these issues where you're throwing out there 34, 37, 38, right? These types of guys out there on the floor, when ideally you would like to go in a different direction. They missed Jared McCain for that reason, where Jared McCain would have been in that game, that younger ball handler, the scorer, a guy who can get into his own offense on his own. They missed that for sure.
So Devon, how do you handicap tonight's game? I assume you guys are doing post-game coverage tonight.
Yeah, I'm tired right now.
But it looks like the Warriors are getting the full Buddy Hield experience, where Draymond wants to kill him already.
Right.
How do you make sense of tonight's game? Do you expect Embiid back? What are you thinking here tonight versus the Warriors?
So resting Embiid last night, you look at tonight, which is a nationally televised game,
Sure.
TNT basketball game. So
his Under Armour brethren,
the NBA, it's frowned upon, right? When your stars don't play in the nationally televised game. So I can't say that. Of course, there's never a certainty with Joel Embiid when
Sure.
you see him on the injury report. But I would imagine the reason why he did sit last night is because they felt like that one was a winnable game. Tonight, also a winnable game, but more so the other part of being a nationally televised game in the NBA, again, frowning upon your stars sitting in these telecasts. So I would be surprised if he doesn't play tonight. The Kelly Oubre, don't know how significant the hand injury is, but maybe he gets out there against his former team and plays against the Golden State Warriors. So I would think that they would look to have a full complement as best as they can without KJ Martin, a full complement of their players tonight against the Golden State Warriors, and looking to close this Western Conference portion of the trip out. So far, so good, right? I mean, they have looked pretty good. Last night, you thought they would go 3-0 in the Western Conference portion of it. Unfortunately, they let one slip through their fingers. Now, tonight, a chance to make up for that on the second night of a back-to-back. It's not going to be easy. And then tonight, after this one, they fly back east to take on the Brooklyn Nets to close out the 6-game trip overall against Brooklyn on Saturday. So a really good opportunity here, 2 winnable games against Golden State and Brooklyn to close this trip out, maybe with 5 wins instead of just the 3 that we are already sitting on with the Philadelphia 76ers. So a real good chance, and I think they will be in this game tonight.
So 8 of their last 10 before last night, 10 of their last 13, 12 of their last 15. They've had a little bit of a stretch where, it's been significantly more successful. When this team's healthy, obviously, and that's the parameter for any team, but when this team is healthy, with
more so with the Sixers
probably
than anyone
more
else.
with anybody else, but with Embiid and when Paul George is healthy and as he has been, and Tyrese Maxey, with all 3 of those guys and their complement of rotational pieces, is it simple enough to say get to the play-in tournament and things will be fine, or should there be an onus of asking for more because of the talent that is on this roster, even with the slow start?
9-3 month for December. So when you see that they have an opportunity to have all 3 of them on the floor at a decent amount of time, and then you have some favorable matchups against Charlotte and other teams like that on your roster.
Yeah, Devon, if they could play Charlotte 40 times, they'd be the best team in NBA history.
They'd be solid. Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, when you have an opportunity to play against those players and you build up a 9-3 record and you have good wins against San Antonio, Boston, back to back, you know what we've seen this for years now. We already know what this basketball team looks like and what they look like in the regular season and how much we always talk about the standard being 50 wins. We expect that from them. They may not reach that this year because again, the hole that they dug themselves into. But yeah, when they have their pieces out there and available, minus the Jared McCain part of it now, we expect them to not only look at the play-in tournament, but they're not that far back from the 6th seed either. So when you still have 50 games left on your schedule, and I think it's 51 games now left on your schedule after last night. When you have 51 games, yes, you have to take it step by step. Now that's to get it back into the top 10, and that's 7 to 10 for the play-in, and then naturally move up. Other teams are going to start to fall backwards, even despite Brooklyn making a trade for D'Angelo Russell or the way that Detroit is winning some decent games. The Sixers are better, and they will make up some of that ground, and they will naturally move up, not only in that 10-9, but maybe even in that 8-7, and quite possibly into that top 6, which is where we all expected them to be in the first place, and mainly in the top 3. So yes, I do think that they still have plenty of time. We'll see what they have 19 games before the trade deadline, which is on February 6th. So then we'll see what happens at the trade deadline as well to bolster this roster, to correct some of the issues that Daryl Morey in the front office currently see, fix those as they get ready to make the push for a deep run into the postseason.
See, Devon, this is how good you are, because I was already cooking up my next question here, and that was about the trade deadline and adding to this roster, and you led me right into it. I said, you needed 10 wins by Christmas. They shoved my face in it, and they had 11 with a huge win over the Celtics. When the big three are playing together, they look great. It sucks you lost McCain because that was a nice little cherry on top. But there were some reports out there this past week that Lonnie Walker, who's playing overseas, the Sixers have some interest in him. Obviously, there's the trade deadline approaching, 19 games left. Where do you think right now your best guess is about them adding to this team? Is there anybody you have on your want list? What do you think is realistic to expect here going forward?
Probably more wing guard help right now. I mean, there's a possibility for a backup big as well, but if Drummond stays healthy with he and Yabusele playing those front court minutes behind Joel Embiid, then maybe there won't be as much of a need as there was before. So these 19 games will be a good run for those two, and even for the organization in general to make a decision there. So as far as players, just some more ball handling, another guard that can help handle the ball handling duties outside of Maxey and outside of Paul George and even outside of Kyle Lowry a little bit. And then somebody on the wing position that's a two-way player that can score a little bit, defend on the other end as well. Also, just being a competent ball handler out there to set some things up and allow those others to play off of the ball a little bit and position themselves the right way. So I would look at more guard wing help, and third would be the front court help overall, because they do still lack in size in general. But when Paul George rebounds, Kelly Oubre rebounds the ball also. They do pretty well. They protected the basketball. Despite last night's turnovers in the fourth quarter, they've done pretty well protecting the basketball. And they just need more help on the wing, ball handling with the guard position. And that's where I think they would go. Specific names right now, I don't have any. I mean, you can look to certain teams and look at the New Orleans Pelicans and how they've gone. You can look at the Washington Wizards, and maybe I've always been a guy that plays around with the name of Corey Kispert because of his shooting.
Sure.
Not a two-way player, but just the shooting in general, because you can never have enough shooting around Joel Embiid in particular, but now all three of those all-stars. So that's just one name that I like to mess around with, but a player that can shoot with some decent size. Ball handling wise, there may be a lot of different point guards that can be a backup guard that you could maybe steal and poach from another team and bring them in for the playoff, for the stretch there as they make their way up in the standings, or try to make their way up in the standings in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, Devon, you talk about maybe a Washington or something like that. I wonder, do you feel it becomes increasingly difficult to have these conversations in January because of the expanded, play-in tournament, 10 teams making the playoffs in each, in each side of each conference? Teams feel like they have an extra incentive to get into the play-in tournament. Does the trade deadline conversation become more difficult for you to kind of piece through? Because, 10 years ago, you would look at a team that's 12 games under 500 and say, yeah, they're sellers. But now they're 12 games under 500, but they're 2 games out of the 10th spot in the play-in tournament. And so does it become a more difficult conversation to start to talk about the trade deadline until it gets closer, now that there's more teams that are in the playoff hunt, if you will?
Not necessarily, just because, as I said, Ty, with the 19 games, that's a lot of games in there that they could lose, and they could push themselves out of that conversation realistically. And then when you also look at the draft, where it's top heavy, with the players that we focused on, from, as you know, Cooper Flag all the way to Igor in BYU, where some of these teams are going to try to start, hey, unload some of these players. These other guys are coming up with these season-ending injuries or missing a couple of games here and there, where they want to give themselves the best possible position to be in a good draft spot for the lottery to land that top pick or top 2 pick or top 3 pick, and not miss out on one of these players, Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, also that we've talked about so much when it comes to the draft prospects. So I think it would all play itself out. And with a full month of basketball, Ty, from now until the 6th of February, I think all of that stuff. And look, organically, these teams are bad. They're going to lose. So they're going to lose. Players miss time. As good as we've seen LaMelo Ball play, he comes up with these injuries and then he's out. Same thing with Brandon Miller. Comes up with these injuries and then he's out. And what did Charlotte do? They lose. The same thing with the New Orleans Pelicans. Brandon Ingram out, Zion Williamson out, CJ McCollum missed a lot of time, DeJounte Murray, while they're both back, the others are in and out of the lineup and they are losing basketball games. So unless they want to keep them for the future, Trey Murphy, probably safe. Maybe even Herb Jones is the name we've talked about a lot, probably safe. But these other teams will start to move on from some of these players, knowing that they want to get a better draft position. And again, naturally, they're just going to lose basketball games with so many games on the schedule.
Devon, last one for you. Not a day goes by where I don't feel old in some way, shape, or form. But LeBron James just celebrated his 40th birthday. My God.
Yeah. Unbelievable to still be able to do the stuff that he's doing at the age of now 40.
It. I hurt my shoulder sleeping.
Yeah, me too. That's why we go to Rothman.
Well, if Devon's the most athletic of the three of us, if he's getting hurt, there's no hope for us.
How the hell's LeBron doing
it? He's one of a kind, man. I mean, to be able to do this at the age of 40, starting his career at the age of 18, and be running the way and rolling the way that he is. He gets not a breakaway dunk, but a dunk down the lane where you can still see it. And, he knows it, right? He knows he just turned 40 and people are going to question it. So when he has a runway like that, he's going to sometimes want to pull the ball back once again and show that he still has it. But to be able to do that, still do that at this age, we know that he's one of a kind, and the conversations of who's the greatest of all time and all that stuff, that's going to go on for a long time because of the way that his longevity in the league and what he's been able to do, climbing up, breaking these records, and all that he has done. Just a phenomenal one that I'm glad I've had the opportunity to see multiple times coming into Philadelphia and watching him play, whether it's with Cleveland, Miami, or now Los Angeles. Never take for granted the opportunity that I've had the chance to see and cover a game that he's been a part of here in Philadelphia.
Just dominating the league for 2 decades. It's unbelievable. Devon,
yeah, man.
Appreciate the time. Make sure everybody's watching the PHLY Sixers crew. You guys do a great job as always. Little late night, PHLY Sixers after midnight.
Again, yeah. I mean, it's been 4 in a row now. This would be 4 in a row. I think it's another 10 o'clock start. Against Golden State tonight, nationally televised game. So 9:30 pregame for us, presented by Bet365. We'll be up for that one, and then go into the late night Sixers After Dark, as we call it, of course, on the postgame show.
So who's
breaking it?
Who's
breaking it all down
after 12:30? Is it Derek or Kyle?
Derek is trying to keep himself awake, and Kyle is probably the crankiest because he is tired, and then they tick him off because of how they lost the game last night. So I would say that. And then Bree's just chilling, just off camera, laughing at us, just chilling. Yeah. And I'm sitting there, we're getting messages. You look tired. Yes. It's almost 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. No naps during the day.
Yeah. Well, if I'm up, I will be tuning in tonight. Devon, appreciate your time as always, man. Have a great 2025.
Thank you, man. I will not be joining you tomorrow morning.
Yes, yeah. I forgot
Get your
about
sleep,
last
man.
night.
Take a nap.
Go get a nap.
Thank you, man. Appreciate
All right.
y'all.
See you, Devon. There he is, the great Devon Givens.
Devon and I did many West Coast post game shows in the post at 2:00 in the morning.
I hate West Coast
my
trips,
gosh.
man. Disney on Ice, I regret not taking the girls a little bit here in the Trust Tree, but like that West Coast trip always kills you.
To do a little like inside the industry a little bit.
Yeah.
So I don't know how other programs worked, but when we were running a certain program at the station, you had to get your, like, let's say tonight's Thursday, right? You had to get your Thursday night spots done by 11:59, or it would screw up the whole system. And there were nights where Devon and I would be in the studio, like manually inserting like 12 hours worth of spots because the whole day got screwed up. Oh my gosh, there was a lot of times he and I were at the station till 2:30 in the morning doing those games.
Well, the NFL just announced their Pro Bowl rosters, and Baldy's going to be joining us in about 5 minutes. We're going to take a quick break, tell you about some friends here, and then we'll dive into the birds that are now Pro Bowlers. But first, let me tell you about Rite Aid. You need to stop into your friendly neighborhood Rite Aid. It's a Philadelphia institution, people, and their pharmacy is great. You visit riteaid.com, and with your My Pharmacy account, you can refill prescriptions, schedule a vaccine, get personalized care recommendation, sign up for notifications when your prescriptions are running out. All you need to get started is a prescription at Rite Aid. Get started at riteaid.com/mypharmacy and stop stressing about your prescriptions. Let Rite Aid do all the work for you. Enroll in automated courtesy refills. It's free, easy, and the easiest way to get your prescriptions, and most prescriptions qualify. Talk to your pharmacist. Sign up through the My Pharmacy account on riteaid.com. Restrictions may apply. There's one-trip refills, so you can ask your pharmacist to sync up your medication, so you only has to stop one time. So make sure you're managing all of that with the Rite Aid mobile app. You can transfer or refill your prescription, set reminders, enroll in notifications, all that good stuff. So transfer your prescriptions to Rite Aid today. Just go to riteaid.com/transfer. Rite Aid caring pharmacists are ready to answer your questions and help you stay healthy. Get your prescriptions along with anything else at Rite Aid you may need, include over-the-counter medications, household products, cosmetics, and more. Just talk to your pharmacy team for details. Restrictions apply.
Yeah, and if you didn't get the exact gift you were looking for, it's not too late just because the holiday seasons are over. You can head on over to, or with our friends at Parks Casino, and get the gift of headline entertainment. Maybe you got to buy it for yourself now, but you can do that with our friends at Parks Casino. You can purchase gift cards for concerts and comedy at the Excite Center, the Liberty Bell Beer Garden, the Parks Grill Steak, and more. All at Parks Casino, which again is my casino of choice. It's Pennsylvania's #1 casino, right in the Philly suburbs, in Bensalem, my hometown. Come on, hang out. I'll meet you for a beer after your concert. Less than 2 hours from New York, in about 25 or 30 minutes, depending on traffic from where we're sitting right now. And tickets now on sale. I've been looking forward to this all day. This is my favorite part of the show. Tickets now on sale for these headliners. Some of them just announced, including May 16th, Larry the Cable Guy.
Gator Dub.
There you go. Plus a second show with comedian Ron White on March 20th.
Can't fix stupid.
Country artist Cole Swindell on February 7th. Heads Carolina.
Tails, California, yeah.
Of course, some of the closer ones, including in just a couple of days, the reggae sounds of Shaggy.
Because she caught me on the counter. It wasn't me.
And, of course, my favorite on February 8th, Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains.
I'm the man in the box.
So you can enjoy dinner and drinks before the show at Liberty Bell Gastropub, the Parks Grill Steakhouse, or Bamboo Noodle House. ParksCasino.com to buy all of your tickets for all of your shows. Parks Casino, this is how you win. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Yeah, I also saw
Jamie,
that,
I've been looking forward to that for like 4 hours now. I saw it was the actual casino and not the sports book.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't wait. This is my favorite read.
I saw Colin Jost is also coming. I might have to just go see if ScarJo comes with him. Maybe she's hanging in the back.
He's doing a pop culture Jeopardy now.
Really?
Are you a Jeopardy fan?
Yes.
So I watch Jeopardy like every night.
Yeah, we usually have it on in the kitchen. And Skylar, my oldest, is now she obviously doesn't know the answers.
Sure.
But she has kind of become hooked on the game.
So I think it's an amazing game because I think it's so good for keeping your brain
Sure.
up to date.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
because I like being challenged by that kind of stuff. And it's funny because like they'll do Super Bowl winners, and I'm like, got this one.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they're like quantum physics, and I'm like, well,
I'm out.
I'll see you when they
I'm
do.
out.
Let me tell me about your stupid story about that one time you caught a squirrel in your backyard or something.
Yeah.
Because all the stories are so dumb.
Yes. Yes. They're,
So dumb.
they're really. What would your Jeopardy story
See, that's
be?
the problem. I give these people crap for their
know.
dumb
It's
stories,
really
and then they're
hard.
like, "What would your Jeopardy story be?" And I'm like, I don't know. I really don't.
I almost died once, but like
that's probably your
That's
story.
not like an uplifting story to tell.
So I think I don't know.
I almost died several times.
I'm not.
But once
Can you?
in a
I don't think you
jacuzzi
could tell
accident.
those stories unless there is like.
Yeah, my butt got stuck to a pool filter.
Yeah,
What?
that's not
Yeah,
good.
I almost died.
How does that happen?
It was uncapped. And me and my buddy were holding our breath underwater. I
Oh
was
my
like,
God, you almost drowned.
oh yeah, dude, I was underwater for over 2 minutes. Luckily, the lifeguard was smart and shut the system off, and I got released. I was in the hospital for like 2.5 weeks.
Oh
Yeah,
my
it was,
gosh.
It was really
Oh
bad.
my gosh,
So like,
dude.
you know, that's a unique story. I'm not like bragging about it, but like,
That's insane.
I also can't make that my Jeopardy story.
No,
You
that's
know what I mean?
because
Hi, I'm Jamie.
It has a morbid tone to it.
Like, I almost died once when my
Yeah.
ass cheek got stuck to a
Well,
pool filter.
The problem is the issue
know,
with a lot
like,
of the stories most of the time are like, yeah, I once made a grilled cheese sandwich, and they're like, and Ken Jennings is so nice. He's
Yeah.
like, oh, great.
Great, grilled cheese. Did you flip
Yeah.
it? Oh yeah. I mean,
What
maybe,
kind of cheese did you use?
Maybe I would go with I lived in Australia for 6 months. Like,
Yeah, I think that's probably a good
Yeah,
one.
I worked Super Bowls.
Yeah, like I guess
I don't know
our
what
job
you do.
allows us to tell cool stories about like I could say, hey, I covered the NFL draft as a college
Yeah.
student.
I
Like that
I
would be-
interviewed Michael Jordan as an
But
intern.
if I win a couple times, I got nothing.
Yeah.
That's
That-
why Ken Jennings by the end was telling stories. He was like, "Yeah, man, I got my clothes ironed this morning.
Yeah.
I went to the
Baldy is going to join us
went to
shortly.
Target.
Like his is easy, right? Like
Oh, he's got a million.
he's got
Oh,
like
yeah.
a jillion.
He could be
Yeah.
on for 6 weeks and have stories to tell.
He's the most interesting man on the planet.
Yeah,
for
he really
sure.
is.
Travel dog. You know about travel dogs?
Oh yeah, I know travel
You
dogs.
know travel dogs?
Oh yeah,
All right.
dude.
Yeah. I'm jealous of Baldy, man. He gets to travel the world with the travel dog.
Ask him about his New Year's.
Oh, I will.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what Baldy did for New Year's.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm
he-
also going to ask him what his Jeopardy story would be.
Yeah, you should.
You know, like which one are you going to pick?
He has a million of them.
Yeah.
It'd be all great stories.
So Baldy's going to join us here briefly, but the Pro Bowl rosters were just announced in the NFL. Tyler, without looking, how many made the team straight up? How many Eagles made the Pro Bowl? What do they call them now? Rosters,
Okay.
I guess. Because there's of course a bunch of alternates, but how many would you guess made the Pro Bowl?
So Saquon for sure.
One.
I would say that
There's 4 starters of the 6. Ooh, excuse-
well, 6. 6 made it, Jamie. Today's show is brought to us by the number 6.
all right. So which 4 are starters?
Jalen Carter.
Jalen Carter is a starter.
I think Lane Johnson probably
Starter.
You said there's 4 starters.
Yeah, you got one more.
Offense or defense? Can you give me that? Oh, Zach Bond. It's got to be Zach Bond.
He's one of the 6, not one of the 4
Really?
starters. Yes. It is offense.
Wait, he's not the starter.
That's surprising.
Wow, that's actually really surprising.
Cam Jurgens?
No.
Is he on the team? Did he make the?
He did. He is the
Okay.
6th.
So it's on the offense. So I'm thinking it's probably another offensive lineman. So is it Dickerson or Mailata? It's one of the 2.
Dickerson.
I would say Dickerson. Mailata missed some time.
Yeah,
So I
so
would say
the
Dickerson.
6 Pro Bowlers are Saquon Barkley, starter. Zach Bond, not a starter. Jalen Carter, starter. Landon Dickerson, starter. Lane Johnson, starter. Cam Jurgens. Now, your first alternates, and Penei Sewell is amazing. Jordan Mailata is your first alternate.
Yeah,
which
Sewell should have. He's definitively he's to me the best left tackle in football.
Yeah, I would say if you have Lane Johnson and Penei Sewell, you're probably talking about your 2 best tackles in football. A.J. Brown, first alternate.
Yeah, he probably is a starter if he doesn't miss that time early
Yep.
in the year because his numbers were insane. But then like Jamar is it's the NFC. So who goes up against him? I'm just trying to think off the top of my head who might be the
Patrick
starter over
Surtain.
him.
Oh, a starter
No,
over him.
starter over him. So Justin Jefferson, is he the?
I would assume.
I
I'm
would
just looking
imagine.
at the Eagles, but I would imagine, yeah,
Did
Justin
Mike?
Jefferson.
I mean, Mike Evans might have made the team.
He's like
a career
he might
just
go
1,000
down
yards.
as like the most underrated NFL player ever somehow. That's a good question. But other alternates, first alternates, my boy Quinyon, first alternate, and Josh Sweat.
Okay, so is Jefferson, Sun God, Amon-Ra St.
I was
Brown,
going to say Amon.
CeeDee
Yeah.
Lamb, and Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, I mean, tough to argue with those. McLaurin had
Yeah.
a huge year thanks to Jaden Daniels. But for first alternates, Jalen Hurts becomes the second alternate on the Pro Bowl roster. Third alternates, this is where you get real deep. This is deep cuts. Darius Slay and Rick Lovato. Get excited. Fourth alternates, punt returner Cooper DeJean and Braden Mann.
Are you a fifth alternate? Is that how far down we're
And then
going?
Fifth alternates, you got
Nick
kicker,
Sirianni's playing
kicker,
receiver?
Yeah, Jake Elliott, Brandon Graham, and Keely Ringo. So a lot of Eagles get some Pro Bowl credit, but let's bring in our man, the one, the only, the travel dog, Brian Baldinger.
Baldy, Baldy. Oh, let's talk some football. Ay, Baldy, Baldy. Oh, he likes meats and football. Oh, Baldy.
Baldy, happy holidays,
Bro.
my man.
Happy New Year to you, bro. Good to see you, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. What does Brian Baldinger's New Year's Eve look like in 2024?
Oh, it was tequila and Coronas all night long, like
Nice.
deep until, I don't know, 2, 3 in the morning, whatever it was.
Nice.
Yeah, there was a couple good parties to go to and out there on the beach and, decent fireworks. It was good, man.
Nice. Love it.
Bounced up the next day, went diving, caught some lobsters. I mean, it was a good day. Good New Year's Eve, New Year's Day.
I love it. So, Baldy, we were just talking about Jeopardy, and how each contestant has to give their 30-second Jeopardy story. Now, you have so much to choose from your travels to your career to broadcasting. If Brian Baldinger is on Jeopardy, what is your Jeopardy story you're running with?
Oh, that's a good question, bro. First of all, I'm not a Jeopardy watcher because it's you know what it is? It's just too intimidating how quickly these people can just fire these questions. These answers.
It's real humbling.
If you give me enough time and enough Google searches, I'll get the answer. But it's just too irritating to see these people, just these automatons, just AI these answers right back to you in real time. I can't process like that.
Yeah.
I can't be Joe Burrow and just process 5 receivers and get the ball in the end zone to T. Higgins. I don't operate that way. But I guess the story would be I made this commitment to sports, not just football. I remember I was delivering newspapers in Minnesota, morning newspapers, which is ridiculously harsh this time of the year. It's got a foot of snow, it's minus 15 degrees, and you got 56 papers you got to deliver. Put them behind each door. And I remember one day going, I'm 11 years old. I'm saying, I'm going to see how far sports can take me because this work thing is ridiculous. Like my toes are frozen. I'm frostbit. I got 30 more papers to deliver. The wind's howling. Like nobody's tipping me. Like I'm going to find a better way. So I think I just figured I'm going to commit to sports and see what I can do if I just take that long game.
Well, you committed and it paid off for you, Baldy. Now, the story of the day here is that the Eagles are, I guess, making the smart decision and resting starters this weekend, but certainly not your standard locked into the 2 seed, rest everyone situation with Saquon Barkley on the doorstep of NFL lore and legend. Listening to him in the locker room yesterday, he wanted a shot at it. How do you view this situation of sitting him with an NFL record in the grasp?
Jamie, honestly, I talked to Saquon a couple weeks ago before the Washington game, and I asked him about 2,000 in the record, and he wanted it. Like it was important to him. What running back doesn't want to be up on Mount Rushmore?
Sure.
It's not even selfish. It's what they do. And in a world where they've undervalued these running backs, at least, look, you get paid, but they're not getting the guaranteed money that other positions were getting. And so you help that cause. I know Eric. I played with Eric, in Indianapolis. He won a rushing title when I was playing with them. It's still a big deal to Eric. And he's a Hall of Fame player. He still talks about it. 2105, 1984. Like they beat us in the playoffs. I think he ran for 250 against us in a playoff game. It was ridiculous what he did. But anyways, I texted Lane, is it important to you? Like, I know it's important to Lane. Like he's trying to build a Hall of Fame resume. Like it's a nice little thing if, Saquon goes for 21-10 and gets that record. Like that's going to help Lane. But ultimately, he said, look, they had an early bye, week 5 bye. They've gone 12 straight weeks of playing. Honestly, take the week off, bro. Go 4-0. Let's start a new streak, go 4-0. That's all that really should matter is going 4-0. I think Saquon gets that. Like if you said Super Bowl championship or rushing record, I mean, he's going to tell you Super Bowl championship. But he wouldn't mind doing both either.
Yeah. Baldy, is there any real situation where you'd want Jalen Hurts to play a little bit this weekend? Almost 3 full games entering the playoffs without playing. Is that sports talk fodder, or do you think there's a little bit of reality to kind of getting back in the groove a little bit?
No, I think there's some reality to it. I mean, there's a rhythm to this game, bro. And he kind of figured it out. Obviously, early on, he was turning the ball over too much. And then they went through a stretch where it was just a running team, and then the receivers are getting upset with them. And so he kind of balanced it all up. And they found a rhythm, and they were really good at it. They beat a good Baltimore team, won some big games. But I do think you can't put them out there. If Lane and Mailata and some of these guys aren't out there, you can't put them out there. It's like, why would you put a starter out there with, your backups? Regardless, I mean, Fred Johnson's played well.
Sure.
Tyler Steen's played well. But I wouldn't put him out there if the starters aren't out there.
So, Baldy, your breakdowns this past week talking about the offensive line play and, especially with Kenny Pickett and going up against Micah Parsons on the other side. It just like the breakdowns that you have, it's just I'm more and more impressed with this offensive line, especially considering the fact, your all-pro center retires, you slide your guard over, Mekhi Becton comes in on kind of a prove-it deal. What's impressed you most about this offensive line play, maybe over the last couple of weeks specifically, but over the course of the season in general?
Well, I mean, when Tyler Steen and, Fred Johnson were starting, there was no drop-off. They there's teams, Chicago, Giants, these teams in this league, they can't put 5 offensive linemen out there together. They played 7, and Jack Driscoll's played a little bit. So they played everybody. But I guess what's impressed me most is how well they played together. Like Mekhi Becton, I've known Mekhi since he came out of Louisville. Like he's never played guard in his life. He didn't know when I saw him preseason if he could do it. If this is the starting spot, I'm going to go compete for it. But he didn't know if he could do it or not. He's been awesome. But how they've played together as a group, whether Fred's in there at left tackle or Mailata's in there, they've played so well together, and including the tight ends. So, I just think their continuity and how they play as one, that collective brain that they have, I think is what's been most impressive. And then the other part is they actually move the line of scrimmage. They move people off the ball. There's teams in this league that can run zone stretch and they trap guys and angle block. And the Eagles don't really fool around with a bunch of stuff. They just knock people off the ball the old-fashioned way.
Baldy, the NFC is loaded this year. The Eagles have a scenario this weekend that'll unfold. They either get the Green Bay Packers or the Washington Commanders in a very scary Jaden Daniels. Schematically, matchup-wise, do you think there's a better outcome here for the Eagles, or is it you're coming into Lincoln Financial Field in the playoffs, doesn't really matter who it is?
Well, we'll see who Washington plays against Dallas this weekend, if they play their guys or not. I don't know. I don't know what's happening there. But I don't think it really matters to the Eagles, honestly, who they get in the first round. It's going to be a home game, bro. They're going to be rested. It'd be good. I mean, the one concern I have about this team is there has been consistently slow starts. And so you get to the playoffs sometimes, and the way these games get played, you might only get 8 possessions. And if you fool around and dick around for the first 2, trying to figure out what's working, what's not working, and you're trying to get a first down, and all of a sudden, I don't know, it's 7-0, 10-0, and you're playing from behind against teams that can score. That would be my only concern at this point. And it's a legitimate concern because they have struggled to start these games. Even when they're put together a 10-game win streak, whatever it was, they still struggle to start the games.
Yeah, Baldy, speaking of Jaden Daniels, what's his ceiling, do you think? Can he be a top 3 guy consistently in a year or 2 from now? Is he that good? Is he that scary that the Eagles have to worry about him for a decade plus?
I think so.
Yeah, feels like it.
Yeah, no, that guy's decision making is elite. Now, can he run for 900 yards? Does he need to do that? Like he just ran. I mean, in that overtime win against Atlanta, he ran for 42 yards and a bunch of third downs, and he wasn't sliding on any of those. So as Jalen found out, you don't slide in this business, and at least try to protect yourself. You might not survive 17 weeks. So that's my concern. But his poise, even when he threw that winning touchdown to Zach the other day, like everybody else is celebrating the end zone, he just kind of stood back and took it all in. I'm sure he was excited. They won the game. They're going to the playoffs, all this stuff. But it wasn't like he had a set of pom-poms and he was jumping up and down with them. I think he just expects to make these plays. And I go back, I remember I called Dan Quinn up in June this year, and they had a closed OTA, like the last 3 games. And I said, hey, can I just come down and watch practice, Dan? I know it's not open to me. He go, yeah, come on down. We'll take care of it. So I go down, and now I'm just watching Jaden, and he's competing with, Marcus Mariota was taking a lot of the number 1 reps at that time. So I was just asking Zach and Kingsbury and some of these guys, about Jaden. What's he been like? He goes, the guy just absorbs, man. He knows what to do. He knows where to go with the ball. Going back to training, OTAs in June, this guy knew what to do with the ball and where to go. He's unbelievably poised. And then he just has all the right touch on the throws and when to run and how to get out of harm. He's got it all.
Yeah. So last one for me, Baldy. You're talking about, the fear of a potential slow start against these good teams. Minnesota is the second best team in the NFL in points in the first quarter. It's 6.8. The only team that's better is Tampa Bay this year so far. So I want to talk about Sam Darnold for a second. Drafting a quarterback 11th overall, and Sam Darnold has had a career year. What do you think the future looks like for Sam Darnold, and what do you think the future looks like for the quarterback position in Minnesota?
Well, I talked to the general manager a couple weeks ago. I was doing a Minnesota-Arizona game, and or Minnesota-Atlanta game, I guess it was. And it was Kirk Cousins' return. It was a big buzz in the stadium. But the general manager said, look, Baldy, we could just play this thing out. We don't have to make any decisions. Let's see what happens the regular season. I mean, here they are on the verge of being the number 1 seed, everything going through Minnesota. Let's see how we do in the postseason. And we can make that determination, when it all plays out, which is a good place to be. But honestly, I don't think they have any choice but to pony up. Because if they don't, they said, okay, go test the market, Sam. There's 6 teams right now that are lined up to go take Sam Darnold that believe that they can win with him. And so it's amazing what happens when you put a quarterback, a talented quarterback, in an organization that just knows how to do everything the right way, like Minnesota's doing, and how a quarterback flourishes. And so you'll probably see Carson Wentz go out there after being in Los Angeles and now with Andy in Kansas City. He's going to be in demand this year. I think he's going to play really good against Denver, but I think Sam's going to get a big payday. I don't think they have any choice. Even though they drafted J.J. McCarthy, Sam loves it there, not likes it. He loves it, not just because they're winning. He loves the team, the culture. He likes living there. He loves the coach. I mean, I think Minnesota is going to pony up and keep Sam Darnold as a quarterback.
So Baldy, I wanted to do your predictions on the NFL awards this season, and I think the Coach of the Year resides, and maybe it's Vic Fangio or Brian Flores for Coordinator of the Year. But Coach of the Year, Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota, does he have that one locked up?
I think so. I think he does. I mean, it's more than just Sam Darnold. I mean,
sure.
It's they rebuilt their entire defensive line. Nobody knew that Jonathan Grenard or Andrew Van Ginkel or Pat Jones, I mean, all these guys were going to flourish. That's kind of a dangerous thing to rebuild your whole defensive line, but it's worked out for them. I would say, and they're on the doorstep here, going to Detroit and winning and getting to 15-2. But I would say Sean Payton deserves some serious consideration. Rookie quarterback,
sure.
Limited resources, 5 draft picks, a lot of dead money. And what he's done with that roster is really amazing. But whether they go to Detroit this, Sunday night and win or not, I think Kevin O'Connell is a guy that deserves much of that credit in that department.
The MVP, Baldy, does Josh Allen have it, or does Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow have a realistic shot of swooping in here and stealing one?
Well, I don't know how anybody could deny Lamar Jackson his third. I mean, he's, if you look at touchdown to interception ratio, nobody's close. He's got a quarterback rating of 120. Nobody's close. He runs for X amount of yards. A couple quarterbacks like Jaden are close. But, to me, he's the MVP. The team probably wins their fourth in a row this week. I don't know who they're going to play or not play, whatever, but they're in contention to win the division again. But, obviously Josh Allen's in the conversation for sure. But if you just look at it statistically, it's not really a close race. It's really Lamar's race. He's won 2, but this is by far, he's just getting better and better. His touch on the deep ball, his ability to come back and win games. To me, he's the MVP.
Yeah, Baldy, when he goes into Canton, there's a real scenario where he's like a 5-time NFL MVP winner. Like, it's crazy to think about.
Could be a bit. What's crazy is, as good as he was his first MVP season, as good as he was last year, now he's got to win in the postseason. We know that. He knows that too. So that's not what this race is about. Like, he could have 3 locked up here in his first 6 years of playing.
That's insane.
So, and he consciously, I don't know if he went on the carnivore diet, he went on Ozempic, he ran in Pompano this summer, but he came back lighter and he came back quicker. And, the touch on the deep ball, the layered throws, like, he's getting better. And it's hard to fathom that a guy 6 or 7 years in is only getting better. Todd Monken's helped him. The team around him has helped him. They had to replace 3 offensive line starters. King Henry has certainly helped him, but he's an improving player. Like, he's not even reached the full talent and potential level yet.
And then offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year. Who you got? Does Zach Bond deserve any recognition there? Because he's the first NFL player, Baldy, with 150-plus tackles and 5 or more forced fumbles. Unbelievable year from him.
Well, Saquon's the offensive player of the year. So I don't think there's going to be much of a competition for them. Jamar Chase, certainly.
Sure.
Some of those guys. But I think Saquon, when you're like only the 8th guy to run for 2,000 yards and literally shut down to go for the record, I think that's it. But, yeah, Zach Bond. I said it to somebody the other day. Like, I don't know if anybody, the typical pass rushers, should be that guy this year. I don't see that guy being a difference maker. Trey Hendrickson, whatever. He's playing on a bad defense. You go Myles Garrett playing on a horrible team. Go through the list of guys.
TJ Watt.
Zach Bond is certainly, and I give Vic Fangio all the credit. Like, he's the one that said he never played off the ball inside linebacker in New Orleans. He was kind of positionless. And to see what he's doing and the impactful plays he's made all year long on the number 1 rush defense and all the things that they're doing, Zach Bond definitely deserves credit for that position this year.
Yeah, he's going to get paid. Baldy, it was awesome catching up, talking some football with you. Appreciate your time, my man, and have a great 2025.
That's the plan. That's the plan, bro. Good to see you.
Yeah,
Hope
likewise.
everything's good in your world, and I'll talk to you down the road.
Can't wait, Baldy. There he is, the great Brian Baldinger. I could talk to that man and just talk football for hours.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny, too, because, I was going through his breakdowns last night, and I'm
They're
like,
the best. Him and Fran here,
and I'm like,
the best.
it's not just the Eagles breakdowns that I enjoy. I was watching the Vikings one, and like, oh, why is Sam Darnold having success? Because Aaron Jones has become an incredible pass blocker.
And what he said there about Saquon and the record and kind of resetting. And by the way, this portion of the show has been brought to you by our friends over at TrueMark Financial Credit Union. If you got some young kids and want to teach them about financial literacy, the Greenlight app is awesome, and you should check it out and get your kids, educated in finances, because it's a very important thing. What he said there about the running back market and kind of resetting it, because you just brought up Aaron Jones and Derrick Henry and Saquon, and I heard Shady McCoy talking about this on his Fox show. Like, part of why Shady wanted Saquon to go for it was to validate running backs.
Sure.
And kind of reset the financial market a little bit.
Yeah, I think
because
probably
when
the
you look at those
CBA is probably thinking the same thing.
Yeah, and like Josh Jacobs in Green Bay, like these veteran running backs that were like, you're trying to devalue us. And like, it's not cool. And I think this year, and things are cyclical in sports and the NFL, but like this year, I think the importance of running backs kind of got some more proper footing.
And I'm guilty of it too, right? Like,
So
I have been.
because I'm like, oh, this is the easiest position to replace.
Have you seen the rundown of leading rushers on Super Bowl winning teams in the last like 15 years? It's guys on rookie deals.
Sure.
And it's guys like the journeyman type running backs, the LeGarrette Blunts of the world. The one that I always use as the extreme example, the year the Seahawks won the Super Bowl, do you know who their leading rusher was in the postseason? I think it was in the postseason that year. It's Percy Harvin.
Wow.
So like
even after his fist fight with Russ,
like numerically, yes, the running back position has been devalued on like contractually, it's been devalued because the NFL has an average 2.5-year shelf life to begin with across the league.
Yeah.
And you're talking about a position that probably has one of the shortest across the league because of the physicality, the physical nature of the position. It is my belief that good teams can win with guys on rookie deals and continue to cycle through. I would draft a running back no more than every 2 years. And it doesn't necessarily mean I have to take one with the 30th pick or the 50th pick, but I'm saying I would bring a running back into my organization every 2 years at minimum because of the fact that you basically replenish the farm system, if you will, when the next guy leaves. Kenny Gainwell is not going to be an Eagle next year, I don't think.
I'd be surprised with Shipley being brought in.
So you draft Shipley in the understanding that he's probably your 2 behind Saquon next year. Teams do it across the league. It's just how this goes. I think that those 3 vets that you brought up, Saquon, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs,
and Jones too,
and Aaron Jones too, are doing what they can to reset that and have a conversation about it. Because we talked about this plenty. Good teams with decent cap space should sign elite level running backs.
Absolutely.
Like the Ravens did with Henry, like the Eagles did with Barkley. I don't think Josh Jacobs is elite, but I think he's very good.
He's on the doorstep, I guess.
And the Packers had the flexibility to make that happen. Carolina should not re-sign, not have signed Miles Sanders.
No. Not at that money.
That's what I'm saying. At that kind of money. But
if Carolina a year from now is 9-7 and Bryce Young looks like he's the man,
well, that's what you signed Chuba Hubbard for.
Yeah, you go make that type of move.
But the alternative is teams like the Buccaneers, who are good teams who have invested draft capital in Bucky Irving, knowing that that's going to be your guy in the post. He's probably your guy now, but in the post Rashad White era that they were thinking about, Bucky Irving's your guy on a fairly cheap rookie contract. It's about replenishing that farm system, if you will, as often as you can, because I think running back is one of those positions you can hit on a guy in the 5th round and end up being a legit running back.
Yeah. We will talk tomorrow more about the Notre Dame Georgia game. Today at 4:00. Selfishly, my girls, my mother-in-law, my mom, they're all going to see Wicked at 4:00.
Nice.
So I'm very excited that I get.
My wife said it was wonderful, but it did not need to be 3 hours.
Okay. We've been bumping the soundtrack in the car because my oldest is, and it's legit, but we got to go back in the day.
We're going back. We're going back.
VG is shameless.
We're going back in the day with Rite Aid. Yeah!
Man, VG, he really misses calling.
It's everything. I love it.
He's talented. Yeah. And make sure you're stopping into your neighborhood Rite Aid. It's a Philadelphia institution, and make sure you support the good people at Rite Aid. Andrew, what do we got?
All right, we are going back in the day. We're actually going to go back to the year 2000.
In the year 2000.
This was Andy Reid's final game of his first season.
Wow.
So we're going to watch that.
You got a clip?
It's a 7-minute clip. We're only going to watch a little bit of it.
Say we're not watching 7 minutes.
But here we go.
Big Red.
Let's get a little taste of Big Red.
They need the Packers to beat the Cardinals. All those things are starting to happen. What a catch!
Anytime I see a clip like this, now we're talking.
Torrance Small.
We're talking
Get
about
in the end zone, Torrance.
We're talking about a quarter of a century at this point.
I think that's all we need to say.
Yeah,
it's not a small sample size anymore. 25 years is a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I think about the year they went to the Super Bowl in 2004, or even the year they went to the NFC Championship game in 2008. The quality of video
is
is
unbelievable.
You think you're watching it on like Potato Network.
That looks like it was from like in my mind 1978.
Yeah, 2000.
Yeah, it was 2000.
Yeah.
I don't want to age myself, but that was the year I graduated high school.
I was 7.
Yeah. It is unbelievable, and even like the chyrons and like the Fox Sports banner in the end zone there, like it's unbelievable how far it's come. And it's still going to improve. And there's newcomer Andy Reid. That's pretty good stuff. And it's amazing. One of the bowl games, I forget which one had it. Like you still think about like you can still improve on this. One of the bowl games had the pile, or no, was it the Steelers game? Was it Amazon Prime? Too much football all cross-wired in my head. They had the pylon cam finally.
They should have had because the
why wasn't
refs
that
have
done 10
access
years?
to it.
Yeah, like why wasn't that
Why
done
don't
10
we?
years? And also, why isn't the ball GPS monitored so you know when it crosses the goal line? Like, why are we even debating this?
Yeah, I think that there's still room to grow.
Yeah, and I would love to see more of the overhead all 22 angles on some like replays. So like
you can on Amazon.
Yeah,
if you
I
do
know,
like
but
the
I don't-
special view.
I know, but it's like too much like switch. Like I just wanted part of the broadcast.
Yeah. Chip the ball. Chip the ball.
But to the point, that was 25 years ago, and it looks like it's 100 years old. What else we got, Andrew? Anything, or is that it?
That's it.
That's it. Back in the day, Andy Reid. All right, to everybody that viewed the show on TV, whatever platform that may be, we appreciate you hanging out with us. If you want to watch the final 90 seconds or so, you can head over to allphly.com to do so. Getting out of here, but I want your prediction. Who you got today? Notre Dame and Georgia. I personally bet the Georgia Bulldogs last night with my winnings from yesterday.
I'm doing this. I'm not looking at Andrew when I do this. I don't know how far this.
I don't think Riley Leonard's going to have the same success on the ground versus Georgia as he does versus
I'm turning my back to
people.
Notre Dame fan Andrew.
Yes. Who didn't even know who Newt Rockne was, but that's another story.
I'm taking Notre Dame.
Oh,
yeah!
I've been back and forth on this game the whole time.
Turn back around.
No,
I'm taking
no Gunnar Stockton belief?
I'm taking Notre Dame.
Yeah, you think Love goes nuts?
This is remember when Brad said don't bet with your gut?
Sure.
This is a full gut feel for me. Like
Okay.
I had reason to believe I was taking Penn State. I had reason to believe, not because I'm a fan, but just the matchup. Reason to believe I was taking Ohio State. Reason to believe I was taking Texas, who didn't cover, but that was my play. Was I just didn't think Arizona State was in the same realm as them. Clearly, maybe Texas isn't as good as I thought. This one, I have no idea. Truly no idea. I'm taking Notre Dame on a literal gut feel.
Okay. I'm going Georgia. I bet them last night. We'll see. Andrew, we don't even have to ask you.
Yeah.
You're all Riley Leonard up over there.
My Irish blood is boiling right now.
Julian Love.
The Guinness inside me is going nuts.
It should be a good one, though. Really looking forward to it. But to the Penn State people out there, Tyler.
Hi.
Slight little advantage there, getting the extra kind of day of
it's
short rest.
It's still 7 days until they're going to play.
Sure.
So, like, I think the one thing.
But Penn State gets what?
9.
The
one concern for me is the health of Abdul Carter. Now, he posted.
Yeah, what are they calling it?
No one knows. They're being really weird about it.
Because he was, hoisting that trophy. Fine. I think it was like
you notice he did it with one arm, though?
Did he?
Yeah.
That's my man. LaSalle College High School, baby.
He posted on Instagram today a picture of Darth Vader in the Bacta tanks. So if you're not familiar, there's more nerddom on the show today. If you're not familiar with Star Wars, the Bacta tanks is like
the regenerator.
It's like the healing processes where it regenerates your cells. And
I would
stuff
never
like
be
that.
able to get that line off here if Anthony was here.
No. That's why I did. Why
The
do you
looks
think
I would get.
Why
from
do you think
two
I
of them.
picked my spot today, Andrew? I feel like I was safe in this space.
Gosh, that doesn't belong in football.
Star Wars. Come on.
But if I say it, it's
Anthony would
nerdy.
be like Star
But
Wars,
if Abdul Carter posts it on his Instagram, it means something,
He's
right?
a football guy.
So he posted that. I think he's going to play.
I hope so.
I think he's going to play.
He's a beast. Do you see a situation? Because I do, where Penn State's playing in the national
Plays
championship.
for the national championship, yeah.
Who would you rather face as a Penn State?
Texas. Oh God, I'd rather play Texas.
Yeah.
Ohio State's going to run the table at this point.
Yeah, but
I don't think Ohio State's...
would you rather face Notre Dame or Georgia?
You know what's funny? I think Notre Dame's going to win this game, and I think I'd rather face Notre Dame.
I would agree with you. Yeah.
I think they can bottle up Riley Leonard. I worry about Georgia's defense still. Like, it's not as good as it has been in years
but
past.
it's full of NFL
but it's
talent.
still really, really good.
Yeah.
And I actually tend to agree with Brad. I think Carson Beck not playing is helpful for
Gunnar
Georgia.
Stockton, baby.
I think Carson Beck stinks. So I would say
He's
I think
quite bad.
It's weird for me to say, but I think Notre Dame is. I think Notre Dame wins, but I also would rather play Notre Dame if I was Penn State than play Georgia.
Same.
But if I had my druthers of a national championship, now we're thinking way ahead. Texas by a million trillion years.
Not even close. Yeah.
Ohio State's going to obliterate teams into submission in the next couple weeks.
I gotta say the theatrics of a Ohio State Penn State national championship game and what would be on the line for James Franklin is one, because if he wins, he's a god.
Yes,
and the record is just wiped
and
clean.
He gets a lifetime extension.
Yeah, but if he loses,
I don't see. I don't know if I agree because
it's great that you got to the national championship game,
right?
But if you lose to Ohio State again,
the argument was James Franklin can't beat top 10 teams, right?
Yeah,
that was
he's
the argument.
1 in 12 against top 5 teams. Or something
statistically,
like that.
It's true, right? He's not very good at it. He beat SMU, who was ranked in the top 10. Now Penn State's better than them, right?
Yeah.
But they beat SMU. He beat Boise State. Same conversation. Penn State's a better team, but they were a top 10 team heading into the game. So that gives him 3 wins on his belt. If he found a way to beat Georgia or Notre Dame, that would be 3-1 playoff run.
Yeah.
To go with the one that he had his entire collegiate career. If you lose to Ohio State in a national championship at that point, I think what the conversation piece should be is that James Franklin can beat good teams.
Sure.
James Franklin can't beat elite teams, which is Ohio State. And
if he loses to anybody else but Ohio State, I think it's like a great, tremendous year for Penn State. If he loses to Ohio State again, though, it's just like, because they're the team that's always waiting around the corner.
I'm preparing myself. I do believe Penn State can beat Notre Dame and Georgia. It's not a foregone conclusion, but I do believe they could beat both of those teams. I am preparing myself for Penn State to lose to Ohio State in the national championship. And that's going to hurt a lot.
Yeah, that's rough.
But to get there, I think would be a wildly successful season for this team.
Absolutely. All right, a lot of fun hanging out here today on the Anthony Gargano Show. Thank you to Andrew Frazier behind the scenes. Thank you to Baldy. Oh, Baldy. Thank you to our man, Devon Givens. And, of course, Brad Feinberg, the brain. And thanks to all of our incredible sponsors here at PHLY. Look, it's 2025. If you want to get the new year started right, you'll tell your friends about PHLY. You'll subscribe to the channel. You'll hit that thumbs up button. And maybe you'll become a diehard with us here to get some of the best writing in the city, from Charlie to Derek and Kyle to Fran, Bo, and Zach. And in true Bo Wolf form, he published a story this morning, writing as if Saquon won the award this weekend or the record this weekend.
Okay.
So the story is written as if Saquon just got the record in the warped mind of Bo Wolf. It's a great read. So consider becoming a diehard here and getting access to all the great writers that we have. And, of course, Jim Salisbury. But
speaking of, by the way,
Yes.
I don't know fully what the plan is going to be, but there's going to be some draft coverage starting soon with Bo and Fran.
Yes,
and I mean,
soon.
If you want draft knowledge, you go to Fran.
Yeah, I was watching the game with him last Sunday. We did the Franning cast. Well, no, that wasn't technically a Franning cast. That was a watch along. And Fran, like 2 hours before the game, was going through college teams, making his notes, and like
Fran
deep.
locally, Jordan Reed nationally.
Sure.
They're my guys.
Yeah.
If they tell me something, especially coming from the draft, I believe them.
Yeah, Fran is going to be worth the diehard membership alone here over the next 3 months, because as great as football is, the NFL draft might be my favorite part of the NFL year. It honestly is that great.
There's like an air of excitement. There's an air of
when the season ends, it's like, oh, that stinks.
Sure.
No more football. But we get 2 months of draft talk.
2 months of draft talk,
Yeah.
which is like for you and me, like we're on those websites that are like mock draft generator. And we're talking about the dude from South Dakota State in the 7th round.
I was tweeting a bunch or Xing a bunch, whatever the hell you want to call it, about Tyler Warren the other day.
You have waxed poetically about Tyler Warren.
My man might be a mid-first round pick.
Jamie,
now.
I hate to tell you, he is not going to be there when the Eagles pick.
He's not going to be there at 32 when the Eagles pick.
I've been saying for a while, if he falls out of the teens, there's a team that I think will take him. I think Washington makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, he made himself some money. He is now mocked as high as 14. I've seen him. Who? All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thanks for
Harold
hanging out with
Fannin
us.
Jr., Bowling Green. That's the tight end I want.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Nice. To everybody that hung out, hit that thumbs up button before you get out of here. We'll be back tomorrow talking about Week 18 of the NFL year and plenty more here on the PHLY Anthony Gargano Show. Have a great rest of the Thursday, everyone. See you.
We all silly like the mayor.